Imagine being an omega, abandoned by your own pack, deemed worthless, enduring daily torments, both physical and mental. But just when you're about to give up all hope, you encounter him, your alpha, your fated mate. Chapter 1. Kelsey. I'm waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. I'm bringing in the chemicals, inhale, exhale. I'm breaking in. I'm shaping up, hearing the sound of my alarm clock. I reach over blindly and smack the alarm clock, groaning as I sit up. I don't wait for my body to wake as I force myself to get up and quickly dress in the torn jeans and the two wear. I put my hair in a messy bun and run downstairs, quickly getting into the kitchen, preparing breakfast. I was almost done when Brittany and Ethan walk in laughing, followed by more pack members. Hey bitch, hurry up, I'm hungry. Brittany sneers at me. I keep my head down as I grab the plates of food and set them on the table. In no time the kitchen is filled with members who are eating and talking. I stand in the corner with my head down, trying not to draw attention to myself. My thoughts yet again turn negative and confused. When I turned 10, my parents began to neglect me. Then they began to call me names. I thought that was bad. But then came the beatings. When the pack learned of it, I thought that someone may help me out of the situation, but they didn't. They only seemed to take on my parents' attitude towards me. To this day, I don't know why I was turned on, but for 7 long years, I've been the pack's punching bag. I'm beaten not only physically but emotionally and mentally. I had wanted to end my life last year and I almost did, but something held me back, a reminder that once I turned 17 I'd find my mate and game my wolf, and I just couldn't stop myself from wishing tomorrow would come sooner because life as the Omega was wearing me down to nothingness. I have so many rules. I was told them about a month after the beatings began, and then the Alpha enforced them. 1. Never look any member in the eyes. 2. Never speak unless spoken to. 3. I cannot complain about anything, for I'm not allowed to have friends. I used to fight it, but then after hearing it so many times every single day, I began to believe what everyone had been telling me. I'm a nobody, unwanted, and no matter what I do in life I'll never fully belong. I stopped speaking unless I was spoken to because, well, it's one of my rules. I was taken out of my thoughts when I felt my cheeks sting and my face turned. In shock I looked up and seen a glaring Ethan. You dare to look at me, you ugly bitch. He yelled and I was overcome with fear. Quickly lowering my head I stayed quiet, knowing either way I would be punished. I felt his fist slam into my stomach and I gasped, falling to the floor with a thump, my knees exploding in pain. I could hear laughing in the background and he kicked me in the ribs. I tried to gasp in air but it hurt and it was so hard. I could feel the bones break as he kicked again. This time I screamed in pain, but not one person helped me. When he stopped I was so close to passing out. My vision blurred. Know your place, slut. And with that he and all the others left. And when I knew they had gone, I let the darkness overcome me. When I next woke, my first though feeling registered was pain. My whole body hurt and screamed in agony as I shifted. Looking at the clock I seen that I had an hour to make dinner. I did what I had to ignore the pain as I stood up and hobbled my way to the kitchen. Once there I began cooking. Tomorrow will be better, I told myself. I ignored everyone I could as I served dinner and began to clean up, hearing a member occasionally call me fat or slut as I worked. The names now didn't bother me as much as they did the first few months. I used to cry over just being called a runt, but as I got older the names got worse. I just stopped caring. You can eat, I was told by another member. I believe his name is Max. He was older than me, but he didn't call me names and he has never hit me. Though I wouldn't go as far as to say we're friends or anything, but he is the nicest so far. I don't answer but not my here, keeping my eyes down. I was waiting for him to leave but he came closer, I stiffened waiting for the pain. I won't hurt you, he whispered. How do you feel? He asked in eyes where I heard genuine concern. I am fine, thank you. I say so lightly. I believe he didn't hear me as he simply walks away, leaving me alone to eat. I sigh in defeat at the little food they left me, but eat and how upstairs to bed. We are supposed to get a new alpha tomorrow. I'm just praying he is nicer than the last. I shiver at the memory of Alpha Mason. Such a pervert. I close my eyes and fall asleep. praying to the goddess to meet my mate. Chapter to Kelsey. I wake up yet again to my alarm, but instead of jumping up and throwing on the first cloths I can get to, I just lay there and wait to wake up. Once I'm awake, I shower in the small bathroom I'm provided, and then change into my nicer cloths. I don't get to wear them often, only on my days off, which I get one every other week. It's horrible, and I always beg for the days to pass. I walk downstairs, still cautious. I grab an apple to eat, knowing because I have the day off I don't necessarily have any rules to follow. "Hello," a voice said suddenly, making me drop my apple. I look around the kitchen but don't see anyone. I bite my lip, confused. I turn back, grabbing my apple off the floor and pouting I throw it in the trash. Just what I need. Bad enough with everything else, now I'm going crazy. I think to myself as I walk outside. "Yell, LL," the voice said again, louder this time. I turn quickly, expecting to see someone behind me, but yet again I'm alone. The only people that are out here right now are those who harvest the vegetables and such. Who's there? I hear laughing, and then the voice speaks again. "I'm Sierra, your wolf," the voice says. I say, in disbelief. I'd always heard that when a wolf turns 18 they get their wolf. I had always hoped, but I thought it was a lie. "Yes, I am your wolf. I am pleased to meet you, Kelsey," my wolf says, laughing. "So it's true. We have wolf spirits in our minds." Not knowing much about this. "Yes, and I'm yours. You don't need to speak out loud. I can hear your thoughts," my wolf says, amused. I blush in embarrassment at how that would look to someone else. Me talking to myself. Oh, I see. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I didn't know, I say sadly. "I know. It's wrong how they treat you. You are stronger than they think. I'm sorry to just introduce myself and then leave, but I have to rest. I'll speak with you soon. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Sierra says, and I can almost literally see her in my mind curl up and fall asleep. I occupy myself almost the entire day with things I love. Singing, drawing, and just walking. I knew I'd find my aide today. I just knew it. But who will it be? At 6 sharp the whole pack was crowded outside the pack house. The new alpha has arrived and we are waiting to meet him. I feel anxiety shoot through me, but it's replaced by excitement when I sniff something that smells amazing. It smelled like rain and forest. I looked towards the smell and watched a tall man walk up the stage. I couldn't take my eyes off him. I'd never seen a man look so. I don't even know gorgeous. He was at least 6'4", short black hair, and his eyes were steel grey. His body was unlike anything I had ever seen. He was just big. "Mate." My wolf yipped PE suddenly, making me jump a bit. I look around and sigh when no one's noticed. I look back to my mate and watched. He looks out of the crowd and begins to speak. Just with his voice I find myself melting. "I am Eli Collins." His voice was deep and rich like smooth velvet. I felt warmth spread through me. "And I am your new alpha." I froze and stared wide-eyed at my mate. Did he just say alpha? I gulped. "Oh no. No. Don't worry, he's our mate." Sierra said excitedly. "Oh, he's yummy," she said, unashamed. I shook my head and breathed a sigh of relief when we were dismissed. I quickly walked to the woods, feeling a sudden urge to be there. I didn't even have time to gather my thoughts when the rainforest scent hit me. I couldn't stop the sigh that left me as his scent washed over me. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I heard him growl, and it sent shivers down my spine as I turned and see Eli standing there, his eyes nearly black, blocking his steel grey. My wolf spoke for me. Then his eyes returned and I was taken back by the look of disgust on his face as he looked me over. "You are—" I stuttered, but he cut me off. "What is your name?" he asked rather coldly. I flinched at his tone. K. Kelsey Hendricks. I replied. He shook his head. I can't believe this. I wait all this time for a mate and I get what? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He gestures to me and I can feel the tears gather in my eyes. You're scrawny and ugly and you can't. I can't allow an Omega to be my mate, he says with disgust and revolution. My wolf whimpers in pain as he speaks to us. Please. We raymates, I say. No, why? I've waited so long for this day. I've always believed that I could be saved. But now, what did I do to deserve this? I wanted to scream, but I kept quiet. Chapter 3. Eli. I walked to the stage and was overcome with a sweet scent. It was a mixture of strawberries and almost yet not quite a chocolate scent. It was mouth-watering. My wolf. Xavier stirs excitedly. Our mate is here. I push him back and give my speech. I found it difficult because I kept getting the whiff of my mate and couldn't pinpoint where she was in the crowd as I scanned it. I seen many beautiful she-wolves, but none stick out. I walk around and socialize with my new pack. Several females made their appearance known and tried to make my welcome, more welcoming. But I decline, continuing my rounds. After I finish, I sniffed, finally catching the scent of my mate again, then began following that intoxicating scent into the woods. Clearing the trees, I see a woman standing alone and Xavier pushes forward. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbe. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I can see the shiver run through her and she turns around looking at us. I can tell her wolf was up front when she replied mate. But I was instantly hit with disappointment. I pushed my wolf back. She stuttered, but I cut me off. What is your name? I ask rather coldly. I see her flinch and feel a bit of regret for my tone, but push that regret away. K. Kelsey Hendricks, she says to me. I shake my head. I can't believe this. I wait all this time for a mate and I get what? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I gestures to her and that nagging feeling returns when I see her eyes water. But I can tell she is an Omega, the lowest in the pack. I'm an Alpha. You're scrawny and ugly and you can't. I can't allow an Omega to be my mate, I says with disgust and revolution. My wolf snarls, you lie. You're hurting our mate. Please. We're mates, she says, her voice cracking and laced with pain. I look at her pleading eyes. They're a strikingly blue cut, rare to see in that shade. I shake my head as my thoughts jumble. No, you're weak. I am Alpha, I cannot have a weak Luna. I state and I swear I can see her heart break. Take it back. You bastard. She is our mate. Our only mate. Xavier screamed at me and I blocked him out. Eli Collins reject you. Kelsey Hendricks as my mate and Luna. I felt a slight pain in my chest after I completed. I watched her clutch her chest. Her breathing became harder. I wanted to comfort her, to take it back, but I instead turned away and leave her standing there alone. I can't have her as my mate. I just can't. I won't forgive you for this, Elijah. Xavier promises. Chapter for Kelsey. I stood there after his rejection for what seemed hours. That's it. It was proven. I really am unwanted. The tears refused to stop. My wolf whimpered. KL. Don't listen to him, she said, even though I could feel her obvious pain and hurt. I go to move, but instantly fall to the ground when this intense pain shoots through my body. I try to shout, but no sounds come out of my mouth. I scream silently. My bones crack and shift and I for a moment believed I had maybe died. But I can still feel the slight pain. I open my eyes, slowly, and even though it had grown significantly darker outside, I don't seem to be having any problem seeing. I stand, but I feel a difference. I look down and see white paws. Oh me God. I go to scream, but it comes out sounding between a yelp and howl. I turned. I shifted. I say ecstatic. Yes, go to the river and look down, my wolf says. I follow her command. finding it relatively easy to adjust to 4 legs, instead of 2. Once at the river I look down and gasp. I'm a white wolf, I yell. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Yes, aren't we beautiful? Sierra asks. But white wolves are rare, and don't know if anyone finds out. I'll be hunted. My anxiety spikes. Calm down. You'll be fine. You're stronger than you think. My wolf soothes. But how? Neither one of my parents are white wolves. So that means... I burst into tears once again. Though in wolf form it's not a pretty sight. When I calm down I shift back before anyone realizes I'm gone and catches me like this. But I remember I am now without clothes. I begin to freak. I don't have cloths. I choke. Great and utter humiliation. I sigh in defeat and walk back towards the pack house. Happy that so far I haven't seen anyone. I listen closely and hear no movement inside the door, so I creep in. I make it to the stairs holding my arm across my breast, and the other hand covering my downstairs. I almost make it to my room when Ethan walks out of his. I freeze when he looks up. His eyes dilate, and I nearly black well. Isn't this a nice surprise? He says while coming closer. I back up, but he lunges at me and grabs the upper arm that's across my chest. I have no choice but to follow since I don't want to reveal anymore. And he hums while his nose runs along my bare shoulder. You smell nice. His tongue darting out to lick me. Let go. I say weakly, trying to struggle, but he's too strong. I don't think so. He grabs me tighter, which I'm sure will leave a bruise, and drags me to his room. My heart picks up when he locks the door, then throws me forward and I land on his bed. Please. Don't. I whimper, but he smiles and covers me with his body. I scream when he gropes my boob hard. I begin thrashing under him, hitting and scratching anything. I feel my head snap sideways, then feel the sting on my cheek. You bitch. Just lay still, slut. Nero. My wolf screams, making me scream the same out loud. Suddenly the door bursts open and Ethan is pulled off me. I open my eyes and see an enraged Eli. I didn't care if he rejected me at that moment because he saved me. What the hell do you think you're doing? He says to me. I stare at him confused. And then hurt. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Of course this is all my fault, it always is. The lowly Omega. Nothing will ever change. It'll only get worse. If you want attention, do it someplace else. He rules, and for God's sakes put some damned cloths on. A sob escapes me. I stare at him with wide eyes before I decide to run and escape while I could. Getting up, I run out of the room and straight to mine. When I have the door securely locked behind me, I finally break down and cry for what seems like the millionth time today. Why? I never did anything to him, yet he just rejects me and then he calls me a whore. I don't understand. And I'm so tired of living like this. I just can't do this anymore. Chapter 5. Kelsey, I had to leave. I just had to. 7 years is enough and worse. I was rejected by my mate and then called a whore. I was almost raw, I can't even think of it. I can't believe he would think that about me. He's our mate, Keo. My wolf said lowly. No, he isn't. He rejected us, remember. We aren't worth anything. No one cares and no one will miss us. I argue and she doesn't reply other than a whimper. The sadness I feel is weighing me down. I need to stand up for myself, and that's what I will do. I dress and pack my clothes, what little I have, and put it under my bed. I leave the room in search of Eli. It's time I stopped dreaming. I walk to the Alpha's room and knock. I wait, and when he opens the door I can't stop the gasp that leaves my mouth when I see him shirtless, showing off the impressive 8-pack and the sexy V leading down. I hear him clear his throat and I look up and blush. Did you come here to give your Alpha a taste? He says, smirking, taunting me, and reminding me of what almost happened earlier. I can't say what hurt more. The fact that he thought that I'd be a whore, that he was now throwing the almost abuse in my face. But I needed to be strong. I open my mouth but am cut off when I hear a female I gulp. Knowing that voice, I try not to tear up as Brittany comes into view. When she sees me, she sneers, "What are you doing here, fat ass?" "I've come to say something to Alpha Eli," I correct quickly. She laughs and her hands glide over his ABS. I feel Sierra push, but I push back, keeping her at bay. Eli sighs. "Get back in bed, Britt." She huffs but leaves and he comes out and shuts the door. "What do you want, Omega?" I take a deep breath, fighting the pain. "I've only come to say this. I, Kelsey Hendricks, accept your Eli Collins rejection." I say it surprisingly calmly and strongly, even though my heart felt like it was ripped out. For a moment I swore I seen pain flash across his face, but I ignore it. "Best return to Brittany," I say and walk away. Returning to my room, I feel the tears slip out as I shut the door behind me, but I push forward and take paper out. I write my note. "When anyone gets this, I will be gone." Not like it really matters. I've been everyone's punching bag for years. 7 to be exact, and I honestly don't know why. But I've decided that I won't stand around and die one day because of someone who's such a coward to hit someone smaller than them. I've decided that even the title rouge is better than being not only mentally abused but physically. To Eli, "You're the most selfish bastard I know. What you did to me. The pain you caused me is worse than the 7 years of hell I've lived with here in this pack. I hope you get what you want because you no longer need to worry about this week, Omega." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, "Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I put it on my bed and climb out the window with my bag. I don't look back as I run as fast as I can. I can feel Sierra pushing to talk to me, but I keep her blocked out. I just couldn't deal with it right now. Every step felt harder than the last. I didn't want to leave the only hope of a mate I'd have, but I wasn't sticking around for him to be the one to raise his hand to me next. Chapter 6, Eli. I open the door seeing Kelsey, and I can't to jump in my heart and the sudden ache when I see her red-rimmed and puffy eyes as she looks at me. I like seeing that my bare chest affects her, but it was ruined when I opened my mouth. I was so enraged earlier when I heard her scream, bursting into Ethan's room with him on top of her. But instead of beating him and killing him, I blamed her. I called her a whore. I don't know why I even felt mad. I was the one to reject her. She could be with anyone she wanted. Xavier refuses to talk to me because of it. And now she's here in front of me. I send Brittany back to bed and shut the door behind me. "What do you want, Omega?" Looking down at her, she take a deep breath. "I've only come to say this. I, Kelsey Hendricks, accept your Eli Collins rejection," she says, surprising me. I felt hurt when she accepted it, and my chest ached more than before. I literally felt sick and ready to puke. "Best return to Brittany," she says and walks away, returning to her room. I stand there for a moment wanting to run after her, but decide to let her rest. I link my best friend Alex to meet me in my study. I go back into the room to get my shirt. "Baby, come back to bed," Brittany says, and I am suddenly filled with self-disgust as I look at her laid out on my bed without clothes. Regret fills me, and I know I made a huge mistake by rejecting Kelsey and sleeping with Brittany, but I can't take it back because it's already done. "Get out." I snap. What?" She stutters, and I growl, "Get out." I yell and she quickly shoots up, dresses and leaves. I walk to my study where Alex is already waiting. "What's up, dude?" he asks when he sees me. "I made a huge mistake, Alex." I start sitting down. What did you do?" he asks, curious. "I found my mate earlier." I begin, only to be cut off. "Congratulations, man. That's great," he exclaims. I run my hands through my hair. "I rejected her." I ignore his shocked look and continue, "and she just came and accepted it." Why did you reject her?" he asks cautiously. I placed my head in my hands. "She's an Omega, Alex. I'm an Alpha." I looked at him, hoping he would also back up my reasoning, but he was shaking his head with sad eyes. "It doesn't matter even if she were human. She is your mate. You only get one unless the moon goddess finds you should have another, and that is unlikely. I felt my chest constrict. I will go to her in the morning. I whispered more to myself. Alex yawned. And stood. Seems you figured it out, so I'm going back to bed. Night. Then he left. I sat there for hours thinking of ways I could make it up to her. When somewhere in between I fell asleep. When I woke, it was due to yelling. I sat up cracking my stiff neck. I walked out of the office and into the kitchen intending to see Kelsey since I have been told rumors that she was the cook. But I didn't. I seen Brittany and D.A. then there along with others, but Brittany was fuming. That bitch. She's late, she huffed teeth in. You should go upstairs and teach her another lesson in being late, she demanded. I couldn't stop the growl that came at hearing them talk about my mate. Everyone froze and turned towards me. Brittany swayed her hips towards me and purred seductively. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, she said, pressing herself against me, and I felt disgusted. I brushed her off. What's going on here? I demanded. That bitch Omega isn't down here cooking yet. Brittany fussed. I turned, ignoring everyone as I went to Kelsey's room. I knocked and heard nothing. Knocking again. When I didn't hear any sort of movement, I walked in. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, I asked as I stepped inside, but instantly noticed her room empty. I also noticed that though her room was clean, it was very small and drafty. I couldn't help but feel even more guilty. I noticed her scent was faint, which meant it's been a few hours since she was in here. I was about to leave when paper on her bed caught my attention. Quickly I walked over and snatched it up. Reading it, my breathing and heart almost stopped. Xavier pushed forward and howled in sorrow. She left. She left, and it's all your fault. You drove her away and she's now out there unprotected. He accused, and I couldn't deny that he was right. They'll find her, Xavier, I said, hoping to calm him even though I didn't feel it. I prayed she was safe. You'll find her. That's if she isn't already dead, you idiot of a fucking human. Xavier has been mad in his time, but I've never heard him this mad and never been the butt end of that anger. Chapter 7. Kelsey. I ran until my legs couldn't handle it anymore. I chose not to shift because Sierra and I agreed it would be best for now not to shift because of my situation, but also because Sierra worried that I wouldn't be able to handle another shift right now in my weak condition. I felt my fear spike when I felt myself run into what I believe is the Blood Rogue territory. They are ruthless, and their name alone shows that. I walked as quietly as I could, avoiding leaves, twigs, anything, until I heard something snap, and I turned, effectively not seeing the tree root that I've now ripped over. Believe me, if I wasn't in a life or death situation, I'd laugh. You smell it? My wolf asked, but instead of answering, I sniffed. Wolves were close, and I knew it was only a matter of time before they catch my scent. I got up and ran, but my legs burned and felt like jello. I can't run anymore, I whimpered in defeat. I almost felt the urge to scream when a big brown wolf, who I could tell was their alpha, stalked forward, growling. I decided that if it was my time, it was my time. I watched him, frozen in my spot. Another wolf joined him. He was lighter in color but almost as big. The new wolf stayed while the alpha went behind a tree and came back out wearing shorts. I had to admit he was handsome, younger than I had thought, but a part of me still thought Eli was better. Who are you? He demanded, his voice rough. I stared. I didn't realize the other had shifted until he spoke. My alpha asked you a question, Rouge, he said coldly. I flinched. My name's Kay, Kelsey, I said low. The alpha's face seemed to soften a bit. And what are you doing in my territory? I don't know where the newfound confidence came from. I was just passing through. His lip twitched. He slowly looked me over. What is a female so small doing out here alone? What happened to your pack? He asked, curious. I bit my lip. I left. The other wolf growled. So now we will have more wolves in our territory looking for you, he stated with a low growl. I shook my head frantically. They won't. They don't care, I said, in hopes they'd just let me pass. Please, I only wish to pass. I don't want any trouble and I mean no harm. The alpha seemed to consider this. You will come with us. I stared in shock. I asked, confused. You're young. I'd assume 15, 16. And you wouldn't last long. I suddenly felt dizzy. Lack of food and all the running finally caught up. I shake my head hoping to clear it, but it makes it worse. I almost wanted to laugh. I left because I wanted to live. To go somewhere I'd be happy, but fate seemed to have other plans for me. I at least won't die at the hands of my supposed pack. Please I just want to SS I say before darkness covers me. Chapter 8 Kelsey. I came to slowly. I could hear voices talking around me, and for a moment I stayed still as if I was still asleep as I listened. What do you mean abused? The voice whispered, yelled. I remembered the voice and wondered why the alpha was here. She is malnutrition, dehydrated, and she has scars that well suggest that this has been going on for years. She has fresh bruises along with older ones. Someone, or many, have used this poor girl as a punching bag. A soft voice explained. I mentally flinched. Of course I was malnutrition and stuff. I get scraps and sometimes I don't even get that whole. It's amazing my body hasn't just given up by now. I used to say to myself, just hold it out until I find my mate. But now, I don't even care. The growl threw me off. So this is why Chess now Rouge. He connects it. She's too young. I can hear sad ends in his voice and it's confusing. Why would this stranger feel sad for me? This is stupid. I decide it's best to get this over with. I open my eyes and then groan as the light blinds me. I instantly feel soft hands on my face. I flinch from habit. Plus my face is still sore from Eth and hitting me. Easy, child. You're safe. The soft voice speaks. I open my eyes slowly this time and see the most beautiful woman staring at me. Her face is a mask of concern and worry. I look over and see the alpha and I lower my eyes automatically. Don't be afraid. We won't hurt you. The alpha's voice chimes in. Softly. What am I doing here? I stutter. You passed out from being weakened. We couldn't leave you there, or else you may not have survived. He explains slowly. I shake my head. I meant in a bed. Unconsciously I move my hand over the soft material. I don't hear anything, so I take a chance to look up. And the woman's eyes are glossy, almost as if she's about to cry, and the alpha looks saddened, but also there's an underline of fury in his eyes. I'm confused and it must show since the woman speaks up. Where else would you be, child? She whispered. I shrugged. The cells. Dead. The bed I had wasn't comfortable, and it wasn't as high up as this one. This one would be perfect for just waking up and hanging your legs over. Mine had been on the floor and dirty. I hear her gasp and the alpha growl. And I cringe, fearing that I'd just angered them, and I close my eyes waiting. Look at me. Kelsey, is it? The woman speaks, and I slowly open my eyes. We aren't going to hurt you. We only wish to help. You're so young and you've been through so much. She pauses and my eyes widen. But this pack is known for its ruthlessness. She chuckles, and I blush knowing I said it out loud. We draw the line at hurting children. She smiles gently. But I'm not a child. I'm 18. I blurt. And fear takes over as I just admit I'm an adult. The alpha laughs wholeheartedly, and the woman just grins. You're still a child. But I just realize we've yet to introduce ourselves. She stands and walks to the alpha. This is Alpha G. I can. I'm Luna. Jamie. She smiles. I stare open-mouthed at them. I'm not sure what to say. This whole time I'd be avoiding the alpha's eyes, but I looked directly in hers. Would she hit me? Would I be killed now? I look down. My hands clenched in fist on my lap. For all those years, I'd been beaten into submission. Those stupid rules were playing in my head, and I'd broken one. My heart began to race as all the thoughts and memories raced through my mind. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I heard the Luna speak, but I couldn't even bring myself to look at her now. Look at me, please. Her voice was so soft, so comforting. I looked up slowly but didn't make eye contact. You don't have to be afraid of us. I know our reputation, and I know it doesn't sound good, but I promise you, you're safe here. You can stay as long as you'd like, preferably until you're all healed up and fed properly. The ending was a bit stern, yet she still said it gently. A question had nagged at me until I couldn't hold it back anymore. How old are you? I blurt. She chuckles again. Grayson is 34. I'm 29. I look between them, still not making eye contact. But you look. I mean, we get that a lot. But you should rest. I'll beat her. Jason will be up shortly with food. Please eat, she says, sounding so motherly it makes my heart ache and longing. I nod, unable to speak, and I hear the door shut behind them. A few minutes later I hear a knock. Looking up as the door opens, I see the second man from the forest, and my heart beats wildly in fear. Chapter 9. Eli. I have been searching for 2 days for Kelsey, but her scent was going in so many different directions it was hard to pinpoint exactly which way she went. I now have the trackers narrowing down ways she could have gone. But still nothing. I've debated my options but have yet to really make a decision. I can't link her because she left the pack, and I know she doesn't have family outside the pack, so I don't know where she'd run. She could be hurt, and it's been killing me knowing that I did this. The guilt keeps me up at night, only allowing me an hour at most to sleep. My wolf refuses to talk to me because I did this. I was too stubborn, too worried what having an omega as my mate could do. I am now sitting in my office, my hair in my hands. My brain doesn't do anything but think of Kelsey, how heartbroken and hurt she looked in the forest. It was like I had literally crushed every hope she had. Worse, I've heard numerous talk about how they were better off without the whore. I had barely contained my rage when Alex pulled me away. It was worse then because it was exactly what I had called her. I heard my office door open and shut, and I didn't need to look up to know who had walked in. No word yet, but they believe she went towards there. He paused and I looked up. He looked hesitant. To where agent extraordinaire, my noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Where do they think she went? I demanded. The Blood Rouge territory, he said slowly, and my heart dropped. Gracan was mean when it came to rouges, and so was his pack. If she went there and was caught, I'll call the Alpha. He was a friend, but depending on his answer he'd be an enemy after. There's something else, Alex said, then sighed. I heard Ethan talking to another member, he said, and I frowned yes. I gritted out. Even though he had something going on with Kelsey, I wouldn't punish him. He didn't know she was my mate, and I stupidly rejected her. He was bragging about how he almost. I stared at Alex, getting frustrated. He was never one to stumble over words. I am just disappointed I couldn't pluck that flower when I had the chance. And boy, let me tell you, she was wild. He pushed, and I was obviously showing rage. Why would I want to hear there? I was cut off by his hand being held up. That's not all. He also said after the other stopped laughing, I had to slap her to get her to shut up. Don't need anyone knowing what she's doing. Eli, I don't think she was willing. I felt the blood drain from my face as I thought back on that night. She did have a mark on her face, and she was crying, but I didn't think anything of it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I chopped out, and oh God, I was mortified. My little mate was almost draped, and I called her a whore. Then hot boiling fury took over. Get Ethan in here. Now. I will make him admit. And then I will kill him for harming my mate. You caused her to run away from us. You accused her of sleeping around when that wasn't it at all. Xavier growled. I don't believe I ever be able to rectify my mistakes. But I can at least use Ethan to vent out my frustrations. Unfortunately, when Alex left to get Ethan, I knew deep down that it wouldn't help the situation. I wanted him to pay. But honestly, this was all my own fault. If I hadn't rejected her to begin with, she wouldn't have been in the situation. She would have been safe with me in my room. Chapter 10. Kelsey. I watched the beta in silence as he comes into the room more. This one seemed rather vicious in the woods, and I'd rather not speak and anger him. I tensed as he came closer. He set the tray he was holding down, and for a long while we had a staring contest. His eyes and face stoic as he observed me, but because I am weak, I'm sure mine showed fear. Then he sighed, and I swear from the break of silence I almost jumped. I will not hurt you, little one. I, along with the Alpha and Luna, have seen what you've been through. I would never do so to a child. I look at his eyes as he speaks, and I can tell he is serious. No one will look for me. I say so quietly. If he wasn't a wolf, he wouldn't have heard me. He looks confused for a moment, and then it seems he remembers what he said in the woods. Why? Out of curiosity, would no one look for you? Do you have a mate? He asked me. I know he meant no harm, but pain seared through me like a knife. I duck my head down, and my shoulders shake as I silently cry. I want to smack myself for showing even more weakness, but once a mate was mentioned. Even by me accepting his rejection, I still felt the pain. Sierra still felt it because I heard her small broken whimper. I feel warmth around me and I freeze. Sure. He coos softly, rubbing my hair. His embrace is so gently, and just for a small moment I want to lean on someone. Just once. So I lean my face into his neck and cry. I cry for the lack of love from my family, for my pack, and for my mate. I cry for never having friends, for anything and everything the last 7 years. Finally, after what seemed hours, my tears dried up, and I felt numb. When I pulled away, I noticed I was staring into the most beautiful forest green eyes I'd ever seen. I suddenly felt embarrassed for how I acted. I'm sorry. I mumble. The man chuckles. That's all right, little one. By the way, I'm Jason. He grins at me and I offer a small smile. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Can I ask, do you have a mate? He sounded so hesitant. I shook my head and smiled sadly. I am simply an omega. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Well, I wasn't worthy of being his mate. He rejected me at first chance. I chalk out. I see something I believe is anger in his face, but shrug it off. He is blind. A mate is a rare and precious gift to us. He has lost his other half, and now he will never feel complete. He says, almost as if he experienced it himself, which by my wondering expression he must figure my thoughts. My mate was killed, and I was unable to stop it, even though it happened before my eyes. He said calmly, though from seeing his eyes I knew it still haunted him. Rouges? I asked cautiously. He nodded, and I pouted. I don't know what to say to that. What can you say? Losing your other half is horrible and sometimes deadly, or even able to cause you to go insane. I reach out slowly and pat his head. He looks at me amused. Then his face turns serious. Why do you have so many scars? He asks, carefully watching my expression. I look at him utterly confused. Because. Chapter 11. Kelsey. I was utterly confused. Because. Why was he asking this? I was an omega. Wasn't that enough? My confusion must have shown because he asked again. Who gave you the scars and beatings? I hesitated. My pack, of course. I stated it in a matter-of-fact tone. He looked angry but confused. Why? I looked at him like he was dumb. Well, I already said. I'm the Omega. In other words, the pack slave. It's how Ongazer are treated. By the time I finished, he looked even more mad. Isn't that how all packs are? Timidly. I don't want to be hit again. And treated that way. The next I know, he's standing and looking down at me. With the amount of rage I felt off him, I became frightened. And I backed away, falling off the bed. Please. I whimpered, waiting for a kick. A punch. The pain. He moved around the bed, and I had backed up as far as I could possibly go. But he stopped in front of me. I looked up, and some of the rage I had seen dimmed as he looked down at me. We do not hurt our members, no matter their title. Only monsters do that to their members. He spit. I looked at him wide-eyed. So you're not going to hit me? I whispered. He looked disgusted. No. And no one here will hurt you. I see it will take time and healing for you to believe that. I looked at him closer. He was nice, or so he seemed, and he was attractive, a bit more taller than Eli, but about the same in muscles. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I began slowly. What will the Alpha and Luna do with me? He shook his head and patted my head. I don't know, but I do know they won't hurt you. He raised his brow. How old are you exactly? I debated whether to answer honestly, but decided it would be best. I turned 18 a couple days ago. I hung my head. That was supposed to be the best day. And when did you find your mate? The day I turned 18, I said sadly. I was again surrounded by his warmth. And yet again I leaned into it, enjoying it, even though I knew it wouldn't last long. When he pulled away, I noticed I was tired. Jason also noticed. He picked me up slowly and put me back on the bed. Eat and then rest. I will speak to Alpha Gra Ken and Luna Jamie. I nodded at him. He left, shutting the door with a soft click. I ate as much as my stomach would allow without getting sick. Then I laid down. We will be okay, KL. I heard Zira whisper before I allowed myself to sleep. Chapter 12. Kelsey. A month later, things had been going great here in the Blood Rouge pack. I became an official member, and since I've become stronger and trained, I've stepped up as a warrior of this pack. I'm still in training, but once I get to my full potential, I know, and so does Zira, that we will be great. The Alpha and Luna treat me as one of their own, and Jason, their beta, is kind and caring, much like a brother. I love it here. I was brought out of my thoughts by being tackled. I forgot I was in the middle of sparring. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Pay attention, Kels. Jason yelled. I grunted and used my opponent's weight against him, flipping us so that I was straddling him. I used my forearm to press against his jugular as my legs wrapped around his, holding him still. The more he moved, the more pressure I put on his throat. Submit. I growled down at Tyler. He was a bigger wolf, but around my age. Believe it or not, we've become great friends despite our opposition. Tyler banged his fist on the ground. A sign of submission. I let him go instantly. I moved off of him and helped him up as he coughed and gasped for air. Damn Kelly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Me, he choked out. I gave a sheepish grin. I've acquired many nicknames here. Kels, which is what Jason usually calls me. Kelly from Tyler or Bass, huh? Sorry, Ty. I patted his back and Jason nodded. Good work. Now, Kels, I've talked to Alpha Gra Ken. He wants you. Me and Tyler on border patrol tonight. I stand shocked, but soon excitement and happiness sets in. ISQEUL. Tyler covers his ears, but I ignore it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. OMG, yes. I jump up and down as Jason shakes his head amused. You've trained hard, and there isn't much more I can't teach you. You've done good, kid. I'd met his compliment and praise. Jason has become like a big brother to me over this last month. Thank you. He nods. Go get cleaned up, you too. Tyler and I nod and leave the training grounds. I walk into the pack house and see Alpha Gra Ken and Luna Jamie. They're sucking face with each other. I didn't mean to stare, but the sight just showed me what I would never have, and the small pang that went to my chest reminded me of my loneliness. Soon they must have felt eyes on them because they spotted me. I blushed, having been caught watching. I say quietly, a hint of sadness. Jamie looks sad, and Gra Ken looks sympathetic. Don't worry, dear. We just got carried away, Jamie says shyly. I giggle and wave bye as I head upstairs and shower, getting ready for my first border patrol. I meet Jason and Tyler outside. To my agent extraordinaire, webnovel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Jason asks, and I nod. We head to the woods and shift. Oh yeah. The Blood Rouge pack know of my secret. About being a white wolf. And they swore to keep it a secret. Alpha G. Aiken has been doing what he can to find out who my parents were or if they are still alive. But when you've got to be discreet, it's hard. As long as I'm on Blood Rouge territory, I'm safe. Or so I believe. Chapter 13. Kelsey. We waited and sat around. Tyler had the west side. I had the north and Jason took the east. We would simply mind, Link if there was a problem. I yawned as my ears perked up at a distant sound. I hid behind a tree, rolling in the dirt to unmask my scent and to my white fur. Summons. Rouges. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My wolf growled. I stayed quiet. Deciding to mind, Link, Ty and Jason. Guys. Got Rouges coming my way. I sent and got a return on our way, from them both. But they won't make it. The sounds are too close and I felt a small amount of fear as I heard several wolves. When I seen two brownish wolves cross and then stopped to take a breather. I heard the other wolves coming. I thought that they simply were catching up, but they stopped at the border growling and snarling, and that's when I realized. The two were Rouge, but the others belonged to my old pack. Snapping out of it, I let out a vicious growl and they all froze. The bigger black wolf in front of my old pack's head snapped to mine, but I ignored him as eyes zeroed in on the two in my territory. They growled back, their bodies stances ready to fight. Before I could do anything, one lunged at me, and I dodged, giving me the opportunity to sink my canines in his neck. I bit down hard and my mouth instantly filled with his metallic tasting blood. I was about to twist his neck when the other head butted me in the ribs, stealing the air from my lungs. I didn't back down as I caught my footing and lunged at the second. I could hear the pack growling in what I believe was my support, but I ignored them. I latched my jaws onto whatever part I could, which was his jugular, and I bit, twisted and pulled. His body fell. I was about to turn to the other, but I was kicked over. He grabbed my leg and chewed. I yelped and whimpered in pain. I looked up and noticed the black wolf from the pack was about to cross when Tyler came out of nowhere and growled at him, warning him from crossing into our territory. Jason came barreling out of the thick woods, snarling as he seen the Rouge holding onto my leg. He didn't hesitate to tackle the Rouge to the ground, snapping his neck in seconds. I tried to stand and put pressure on my back paw, but I whimpered. Tyler's ears perked along with Jason's and they ran over. Tyler rubbed his snout into my neck and Jason licked my injured paw, stopping the bleeding. Are you okay? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Jason asked and I sighed when some of the throbbing stopped. I'm fine. Don't worry, I said, giving a wolfish grin. We turned our attention to my old pack. Jason shifted back and grabbed some shorts, putting them on. I noticed one of theirs shifted, and I knew he was the beta. I had seen him once with the IL. Kells, go behind the tree and shift. Jason ordered and I nodded. He handed me a shirt and I grabbed it and jumped behind a tree. Shifting, I pulled the shirt over my head. I walked out and didn't look at my old pack. I went to stand by Jason and Tyler. I had gasped but ignored them until I heard a familiar voice that made my heart skip. "K. Kelsey," the familiar voice said. Uncertainty and hope placing the voice. Chapter 14. Kelsey. K. Kelsey, the familiar voice said, laced with uncertainty and hope. I looked up slowly and sure enough, Eli stood there with his eyes wide. They held shock, disbelief, and was that lust? He began to step forward and Jason growled loudly. His arm went around my shoulder protectively. I could hear Eli growl in response. "Stay on your side, Moonlight Pack," Jason ordered. I looked at Eli again and seen that his beta, whose name I never knew, held him back. I didn't show him emotion even though my wolf was going crazy. She missed her mate. "Kelsey, is that really you?" Eli asked. I could see Jason looking at me and Tyler moved to my other side. I could feel their warmth and it made me feel protected and safe. I also noticed Eli had stiffened when Tyler moved to my side. I never thought I'd see you again, but then I've had a string of bad luck, I said coldly. The pack seemed to be taken back by my courage, but I smirked. I've been searched, I cut him off. We have nothing to say. We've taken care of the Rouges, so there is no reason for me to stick around. To my agent extraordinaire, Myron Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I looked at Jason and I seen that this isn't overlook. I nodded in acknowledged me mount. I turned to leave when Eli's voice rang out. This isn't done, Kelsey. I scoffed and turned my head looking over my shoulder. I believe it is. I shifted and ran off, my wolf howling in sadness. I ran into the pack house, avoiding everyone. Running to my room, I shut the door and landed on my bed. I will not cry for that asshole, I said to myself. But in all honesty, I felt like doing just that. The pull was still there. The hurt that passed over his face as I left made me hurt, but I ignored it as best I could. I heard a knock on my door. Come in. My door opened and I sat up. Alpha Gia, I can. Luna, Jamie and Jason walked in. I could see by their looks they wanted answers and I sighed deeply. I mean the Alpha of Moonlight Pack is. I paused, he was my mate, I said quietly and shrugged. I heard Jason and Gia ache and growl while Jamie sat beside me and hugged me. I let her, of course. Her scent calmed my breaking heart. I was better with the men's groaning and Jamie's comforting hugs. I remember quiet well when I was introduced to this pack. It was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. Oh honey, she cooed. Don't you worry. You'll be fine. I nodded. I looked up to see that Jason has a murderous look on his face and Grok at NS wasn't any better, but there was also guilty. I raised a brow. Confused, but he began to talk. He rejected you, Gia Waken asked. I nodded. Just hearing it hurt. Damn. I was confused again. Shit. You're coming here. I finally understood what he said and I stood quickly. What? I yelled. To my agent extraordinaire, Myron Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. They can't. Giorican sighed. The Alpha asked for help. With the Rouges. They keep coming, but he doesn't know what they're after. He scratched the back of his neck. I offered assistance. I sat down, feeling defeated. Don't worry, dear. You're safe here. I couldn't speak, so I nodded. I said, in a whisper. Jason wrapped his arms around me. I leaned into his warmth. He was one of the few who could comfort me. They arrive tomorrow. Tyler will be with you the entire time. So don't worry, Jason said. I nodded into his shoulder. I am really tired, I hinted. They seemed to buy it because they all walked to the door. Remember, Kelsey, you're one of us now, and we protect our own. Alpha Gia ached and said determinedly. I smiled slightly. Thank you. I got a good night from all of them. I laid down on my bed. What am I going to do? Why do they have to come here? Chapter 15, Eli the Forest PT. 1. I smelt the Rouges in our territory and held out the warning. Soon I had my bite at Alex, and a few other warriors behind me, spotting the 2 Rouges we gave chase. They were fast, I give them that. But, could we get them before they crossed the border? I growled in frustration as they crossed. Stop, I ordered my pack, and they obeyed, stopping at the borderline, growling out their own frustrations. I looked around. Where is the guard? I then heard a growl coming from the tree line. A lone wolf. The size suggests that this wolf is female. But she didn't take her eyes off of the Rouges. Was she not? She's going to take them alone, my beta asked. I couldn't take my eyes off this wolf. I don't know why, but she drew me in. Her fur was dirty. Her wolf eyes are crystal blue. But she was beautiful. I growled when one lunged at her. She dodged and sunk her canines into the back of his neck. The Rouge whimpered in pain. I seen her bit down and then I growled as the other Rouge hit her in the side. I was sure we were about to see this female. I bet she caught her footing and lunged, latching onto his throat. My pack along with myself growled in encouragement. Some of my pack shouted though she couldn't hear. Get him, girl. Who? She pulled and twisted. When she moved away, his body fell. She began to move but was too slow. The other grabbed her leg and looked like he was trying to chew it off. I was about to step over when another wolf, who was grey, stood in front of me snapping. I was baffled. He was concerned about me crossing while his packmate was being hurt. But then I heard a vicious snarl. Looking at the bigger dark brown wolf, tackled the wolf off her and wasted no time snapping his neck. When done, she stood and whimpered. The wolf in front of me turned and went to her, nuzzling. They must be mates, a pack member asked, but I couldn't answer. Seeing the two males care for her and comfort her irritated me, and I don't know why. The dark brown wolf shifted into him and Foreman pulled some shirts on. He handed the female a shift and she disappeared behind the tree. We all shifted while we waited. When she came back out, I stood in shock. I knew my pack was shocked by their own reaction, but she never looked up. Instead, she went to stand by who I assume is their beta. Kelsey? I asked in disbelief. In shock. I looked her over. Her legs were now toned and tanned, and as she looked up I simply noticed the breathtaking blue eyes I'd missed. I felt my body stir to claim her. I took a step but then snapped out of it when the beta growled. Stay on your side, Moonlight Pack. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He slung his arm over Kelsey and pulled her deep to his side. I growled possessive lie. Xavier wanted to come out and challenge this wolf for touching her. Chapter 16. Eli the Woods PT. To my chest rumbled and vibrated with my growl. I was about to lunge at the male touching my mate when Alex held me back. I took a breath and looked back at Kelsey, who was watching me. Several emotions passed across her face, but for the life of me I couldn't name a one. Kelsey, is that really you? I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away, just stood there and watched me. I noticed the other wolf, who seemed to be around her age, moved to stand on the other side of her. I tensed, remembering what a pack member had said. I never thought I'd see you again, but then I've had a string of bad luck. She replied coldly. I could feel my pack stiffen with her response, and I was a bit shocked myself. I seen the smirk rise to her face and was even more confused. But I needed to let her know I wanted her. I've been sick, I was cut off. We've nothing to say. We've taken care of the Rouges, so there is no reason for me to stick around. She turned her attention to her beta and then nodded. I don't know if they spoke or not, but then she turned and began walking. I panicked and blurted out the first thing I could. This isn't done, Kelsey. I yelled out. She stopped and turned her head, looking over her shoulder, and looked me straight in the eyes. I believe it is. Then shifted and ran off. My wolf begged me to let him go to his mate, but I couldn't. Everyone except Alex. Return to your positions. I ordered in the pack scattered. My name is Jason, beta of the Blood Rouge pack. I assume you're Eli, alpha of the Moonlight Pack. The one that touched my mate said with a smirk. He made no secret that he was sizing me up. I am. He nodded. I seen the other nod. I'm Tyler, third in command. I simply nodded in acknowledgement. How long has Kelsey Hendricks been in your pack? I asked Jason. Jason's face turned murderous. Since she left yours, he stated with a growl. I wasn't exactly sure what to think of his reaction until he continued. She was weak. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Bruised, and she will have scars for the rest of her life. But then what do you care? For a moment I let what he said sink in and my heart almost stopped. She was that bad. Who hurt her? After I heard him accuse me of not caring, I snarled. Do not tell me that I do not care. That is my mate. I yelled. He laughed. And Tyler decided to speak. You are not her mate. You rejected her and lost all rights to her. She can do better, he said, and I lunged, but Alex continued to hold me. You will not touch her. She is mine. I made a mistake and one that I will rectify. I stated and then walk away before I lose all the control I have at the moment. Savio was scratching at my control, wanting to be freed to tear into the two males that were near our mate. I was happy she was alive and well, but I was sad and hurt that she just left and didn't let me speak. But then I don't really blame her. Now I am happy I asked for the Blood Rouge's Alpha's help. Tomorrow, my mate, I will see you again, I said to myself and headed back to the pack house. Chapter 17. Kelsey. I woke with a start. My wolf has been on it all night, which left me with little to no sleep at all, and got out of bed. I could tell that the moonlight pack wasn't here yet, so I dressed in jean shorts and a black tank top. I slipped my flip-flops on and went downstairs for breakfast. I nodded to some of the pack members as I passed. I become respected here, and I loved that I didn't have anyone bullying me or insulting me all the time. No one hurt me or raised their hands to me, unless on the training field, of course. I greeted Tyler as I grabbed fist and sat down. "So how are you, Kelly?" he asked me. I looked at him and could see his concern. "As good as I can be. Sierra was on edge all night, so I didn't sleep well. But I'm okay." I forced a smile. He raised his brow, giving me the "you're only fooling yourself" look. But I concentrated on eating. When we both finished, we went outside. As soon as I stepped foot outside, Alpha-G or Aiken stopped me. "They're here, Kelsey," he said quietly. "They will be coming through the tree line in a minute or so." I tried not to panic. I nodded and looked to the trees, which as I did I seen Jason first, and then Eli. He had his beta, and to others with him. I recognized Brittany straight away, and the pain I felt seeing her here with him caught me off guard. I mentally shook my head. I don't care if he brought her here, and I don't care if they're together. "Yeah, keep telling yourself that Kate ill." Sierra laughed, but I knew she was hurt as well. "This will be a long day, Sierra," I whispered, even though I knew no one else could hear me. She didn't reply. When I concentrated again, they stood right in front of us. Tyler moved closer to my side, and I basked in his comfort. "Alpha Eli, it's nice to finally meet you," Alpha-G or Aiken said politely, extending his hand. Eli didn't hesitate to shake his hand. "As with you, Alpha-G or Aiken." Husky voice washed over me. Sierra acted like she was rolling in it to cover herself, and I mentally rolled my eyes. "So, shall we go inside and discuss the issue?" G.R. Aiken said. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." My head snapped to Alpha-G Aiken, his eyes warm and sympathetic. "Follow us, please." I bit the inside of my cheek and nodded. He began walking, and I turned and also began walking. Tyler put his hand on the small of my back, meaning to comfort, but with Eli following he saw, and I could feel the tension spinning in the air. Once we all piled into Grocker NS office, Jason shut the door. "This is a soundproof room. Talk freely," G.R. Aiken said. He leaned back comfortably in his chair. I could feel Eli's eyes on me until G.R. Aiken spoke. He tore his eyes from me and looked at G.R. Aiken. I sighed in relief, which didn't go unnoticed. Jason joined me and squeezed my hand comfortingly. "We've had 3 different Rouge attacks in the last month. We've managed to get a few and talk to them. Seems they're looking for someone. But my problem is, I not only don't know who it is they're looking for, I don't know why," he said calmly. "And patrol?" G.R. Aiken asked, now leaning on his elbows. Eli shook his head. "I'm unsure how they're getting in." I listened to everything that Eli had said, wondering if there had been any death in the pack because of these attacks. I'm sure he would have mentioned it if there were. But if patrol isn't catching them when I know they aren't that bad, how were they getting in? Then the answer sprang up and I spoke without thinking. "Sounds like you've got a traitor," I said quietly, but when I looked up they all stared at me. Oopsie. Chapter 18. Kelsey. I lifted my head as everyone stared at me. Brittany sneered. "We do not have a traitor. How dare you imply that?" she raged. I felt Tyler and Jason tense beside me. They knew who Brittany was. I never kept it from them. Obviously you do. Or else Rouges wouldn't make it past the border patrol. or your border patrol is lacking in training. I raised a challenging brow to Eli, who stayed quiet as if thinking. Why, you little bitch. Brittany stood. Our pack isn't lacking. It's been better without your fat ass. They're holding it back. Smirking, evil why? I smiled even when I seen Eli tense. He was about to say something, but I spoke first, cutting him off on my C. I lifted my shirt out to just under my chest. I ran my finger down my perfectly toned stomach. This fat ass is in better condition now that she has a pack to actually do something productive other. So I suggest you shut the fuck up before I snap you an E-Rex. I snarled back. I felt not only Alice's heated gaze on my stomach but Tyler's, so I quickly dropping my shirt. Besides, don't we have better things to figure out than you running your mouth? When her jaw dropped, I simply shrugged. I could feel Tyler shaking beside me, holding or at least trying to suppress his laugh. I looked at Alpha G. I can. I apologize, Alpha G. I can, I said politely. I seen his eyes shine with proudness, and I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face. He nods his head. So you believe we have a traitor? Ella began, and I looked at him emotional, says. Nodding. It is a possibility, I heard Brittany huff. But Eli ignored her. He looked at GRA. Can I speak to you privately, Alpha? Alpha GRA can nodded. Dismissed. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Tyler and I left the room. Brittany, their beta as a behind. The door closed and I walked outside. Jason and Tyler following. Yo, bitch. I heard Brittany yell behind me and I sighed. I didn't bother stopping. She wasn't worth it. Hey, she yelled louder. I seen that she had gotten the pack's attention and I breathed deeply. Are you deaf? I stopped and so did Jason and Tyler. Tyler stood to my left and Jason on my right. You could say we're the Three Musketeers. What do you want? I asked, annoyed. I want you to stay away from Eli. She snarled. I stared at her wide-eyed. Haven't I been doing that? If you remember correctly, I left, so do not come into my pack and order me around. I growled, stepping closer. My wolf clawing to get out. I seen Moonlight's beta moving towards us. You need to back off, Brittany. Jealousy doesn't look good on you, but then it's hard to tell if it's that or the makeup plastered all over your face. I grinned as her face got red. Eli is mine. He will be my mate. I will be Luna. We've already agreed and I will not let you. Some worthless freaks stand in the way. She yelled. My pack glared at her. Tyler and Jason went riched. I knew they wanted to attack her, but I showed no signs of distress, which was the only thing saving her. I really hated Brittany. She's always been a pain to me, literally. Chapter 19. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She stepped closer. Even though I kept the fake calmness on the outside when she had said that her and Eli agreed to her being his mate, I felt my heart break yet again. As well as ear. Then I will pray for your pack, I said and turned my back. But then I felt her claws. Her fucking claws sink into my arm. I yelped and she laughed. That's it, I'm done. My eyes changed to a brighter blue as I let my wolf be in some control as well while I reared my arm back and punched her half-force in the face. She let go and stumbled back. I turned my full attention to her and growled in warning. Did she listen? Nope. She lunged at me and I dodged. She did this more than one time and kept missing me. She became more and more frustrated. She sounded like a dying animal as she shrieked. I'm warning you to stop, I said loudly, but she continued. After a moment she stood there glaring at me with so much hate that I heard the familiar cracking of bones. I couldn't allow her to shift, because if I shifted they'd know. So I ran to her and punched her full force. She fell back but continued to shift. So I leered into her face over and over again until she was unconscious. I was pounding lightly when I heard a roar. I knew instantly it was Alpha G. Arcan. I quickly stood and turned to him. As he and Eli rushed over. A small misunderstanding. I said calmly when Alpha G. Arcan was within hearing distance. Eli looked down at Brittany, then at me. Did you do this? he asked, clearly shocked. I did. What was the misunderstanding? Aiken asked. She seems to have it in her head that I am after her Eli and she was warning me off. Even though she's a complete idiot, she couldn't comprehend that I left their pack for a reason. She also felt threatened by me because her and Alpha Eli have an agreement. His beta finally snapped out of his shock and looked at me with what I assumed was admiration. Eli chucked on air. What agreement? Her being claimed as your mate and Luna. Even the words hurt me, and honestly, as much as I tried, I couldn't stop the pain. It hurt my wolf and I so much, and to have Eli so close was all the more painful. I saw Aiken stiffen just slightly at the news. His eyes found mine, and I could see the sympathy. I looked away, not wanting to see any more sympathy or pity. What the fuck? I never agreed to that or anything like that. Eli growled. I laughed. Anyways, she sunk her claws into my arm and I played with her. I did warn her, and then she got pissy and tried to shift, so I stopped her. I looked right back to Aiken as I said that. He knew my reasons and he nodded. This is true. They both had words. And when Kelsey tried to walk away, Brittany grabbed her. Eli's beta said. I smiled at him and he nodded. Well, Alex, you grab Brittany and take her to get cleaned up, Eli said with disgust clear in his voice. I was unsure where the disgust played in. Was he disgusted that one of his pack members attacked another pack's member? The pack they were trying to get help from? Or was he upset because Brittany had attacked me? I shook the thought quickly away. No way was it the latter. I smiled to myself when I finally learned what the beta's name was. I don't know why it was bugging me. Am I free to go? Actually, Kelsey, I need to have a word with you, Aiken said, and I nodded. I followed him back to his office, wondering if I was in trouble or if he was going to ask privately if I was all right. Not wanting to be thought of as weak. In a desperate escape, Kelsey is betrayed and captured, her fate falling into the unknown. As her alpha, her mate, I failed to protect her, which plunges me into deep self, blame and despair. I vow that no matter the cost, I will find her and bring her back. Chapter 20. Eli after asking for privacy. Once they left, I looked at Aiken in all seriousness. I agree. I am a new alpha to the Moonlight Pack and I am still learning and earning the respect of them. I believe it to be very likely that I have a traitor. This is a perfect way to get me and Kelsey close again to show her I made a mistake. As for what I wanted to ask, can you loan me a couple of your warriors to help me flush out the traitor? I waited. He seemed to be deep in though, but he smirked. Who are you suggesting go with you? He had this look that almost had me thinking he knew exactly who I'd pick. Well, Kelsey for one, because it's her old pack and she knows the grounds, the ins and outs. I shrugged nonchalantly. And whoever else you'd pick. He chuckled. Listen, formalities aside for a moment. Why should I let Kelsey go to the pack that beat her? Back with the mate who rejected her, left her while she needed him, and then fucked another female. Even though he had said it calmly, I could see the anger in his eyes. I could tell he had bonded with Kelsey, and even though I knew it wasn't in that kind of way, I still felt irritated. Because I made the worst and most horrible mistake rejecting her. I was surprised when I seen her. And honestly, I don't have a real excuse other than being selfish. I sighed sadly, but I do want to prove that I've changed. That I want her more than anything else. He sat there in silence thinking. When I found Kelsey in the woods, she was very skinny, bruised. She was so malnutrition-ed and weak from beatings that she passed out. She didn't even try to fight for survival. I could see it in her eyes as she spoke to me that she had given up. The more he spoke, the more I broke as well as Xavier. He wanted to comfort our mate, and he knew she was in pain. Our wolves connected slightly, but I rejected her before Xavier even leaned her wolf's name. He was furious with me and rarely talked to me. She was examined by my mate. She has scars all over her back. She wasn't rusting, and it took a while for her to open up to us. But now she is healthy and happy. She is like a daughter to me and my mate. So I warn you, hurt her and I will destroy you and everyone who ever harmed her. He snarled. I growled back. I will not hurt her. Pray you don't, or you will have more than Rouges to worry about. Come, we will go get Kelsey. He walked out, and when we got outside he roared at the sight in front of us. Kelsey was pounding into someone until she heard gawk, and then as we rushed forward she got off of Brittany. A small misunderstanding, she said calmly. She was barely breathing hard at all. I looked down at Brittany's bloodied face and then to Kelsey. You did this? I asked in shock. I did, she stated. What was the misunderstanding? Gr and asked. She seems to have it in her head that I am after her Eli and she was warning me off. Even though she's a complete idiot. She couldn't comprehend that I left their pack for a reason. She shrugged like she didn't care. She also felt threatened by me because her and Alpha Eli have an agreement. I choked on air. What the hell did she mean, agreement? What agreement? What agreement? I asked, confused. She shrugged. Her being claimed as your mate and Luna. I could see how hard it was for her to keep her mask up. For a split second I seen pain on her face. Comfort our mate. Xavi or demanded. She won't let me that close, yet. Give me time, Xavi. He went quiet. What the fuck? I never agreed to that or anything like that. I never agreed to that shit. She laughed. Anyways, she sunk her claws into my arm. I played with her. I did warn her, and then she got pissy and tried to shift, so I stopped her. She looked right at Gulfagy I can as she said that. They seemed to have a private understanding. I was confused. This is true. They both had words. And when Kelsey tried to walk away, Brittany grabbed her. Alex. I seen Kelsey smile at him and instantly felt jealous that my beta and based friend made my mate smile. Well, Alex, you grab Brittany and take her to get cleaned up. I said, wanting Alex busy even though I knew he wouldn't touch Kelsey. Am I free to go? Kelsey asked Alpha Gra can. Actually, Kelsey, I need to have a word with you. Alpha Gra can said, and she nodded. We followed him back to his office. Chapter 21. Kelsey. I followed both Alpha Gra can and Eli into his study. I suddenly became nervous. What did they need to speak with me about? Calm down, Kel. My wolf said, reassuring me. I took a deep breath. Have a seat, Kelsey. I did as my Alpha said and sat down. I never looked at Eli. I kept my gaze on Gra can. It seems that Alpha Eli here is taking your opinion highly. He believes that you're right. I remained cool even though I was highly shocked that he'd actually consider it. He has also requested a couple of my wolves to help him. Now I stared at him in confusion. That confusion turned into realization and anger. I said through clenched teeth. Alpha Gra can nods. He has personally requested you, but I will let you choose who will help you. Unfortunately, Jason must remain here. He watched me closely and I could also feel Eli's eyes on me. Stay cool. Don't let him think it affects you, Kel. My wolf said. How do I do this, Sierra? I can't do this. I panicked. You can. We will prove that we're stronger and that he made the worst mistake denying us. She replied calmly. Very well. I want Tyler to come. Eli growled. Choose another. I looked at him and raised a brow. Why? I was told I can pick and I've already chosen. He simply grumbles and doesn't say any more on it. I returned to looking at Gra can. And the proud look is back. I simply smile. So it's decided. Pack what you'll need and you leave today. Alpha Gra can said simply, and I bit my lip. I stood. Am I excused then? Yes, my Alpha said, and I leave the room without looking back. I head straight for Tyler. I yell and he jogs over, slinging his arm over my shoulder. Sup, did you get your ass chewed? He asked, smirking. I rolled my eyes. No, but I've been requested to help Alpha Eli flush out the traitor. I finish in our private mind link. He stopped and stared at me wide-eyed in shock, then it turned to half sympathy and half rage. What do you mean you've been requested? He asked. Seems Eli wants me personally to help. Oh, by the way, I choose you as my second, so pack your bags. We leave today. I grin like a mad woman as he chokes on air. Wyatt. He yells and I laugh hysterically. I simply nod. cut his back and head off to pack a bag. I bump into someone and know that it's Eli. Even though our bond is dulled, I can still feel the ghosts of tingles. But I don't even look up as I mumble an apology and walk away quickly. I will have to be quick. I won't be able to stand it long. I say to myself, then get to work on packing cloths and necessities. Chapter 20 to Kelsey. Tyler and I meet Eli. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing cliché's enthusiasm. Brittany and the others outside. I smirk while Brittany glares daggers at me. What I do? To sink my canines into her scankier growls, which makes me laugh out loud. I clap my mouth shut quickly. Tyler gives me a questioning look, but I shake my head. Since you're both ready, let's go then. Eli says as he turns around, and Tyler and I follow. Remember what I said, Alpha Eli. Alpha GRA can yells before we disappear into the wood. Wonder what he told Eli. Oh well, Tyler. So well, you know how my old pack is. Don't be a hothead, but don't take their shit either, okay? I say, though I mind, Link. He smiles slightly. Don't worry. We may be able to teach this pack a thing or two by time we're done. I shake my head. Tyler is always so positive. Sometimes I wish for that. I notice that Eli walks closer to me. I give him a questioning glance. How have you been? He asks randomly. I can't help but laugh at the absurdity of that question. Seriously. I've been great with the Blood Rouge pack. I'm pretty sure I'm in love with everyone. He seems in thought when Tyler opens his mouth. Oh, and they love you to Kelly. Especially the male. My head jerks around and I glare at him. What's he doing? He remembers that this is an alpha, he goading right. I hear growling and I look at Eli, who stopped, so Tyler and I both stop. I notice Brittany and the others stopped, but then suddenly began walking again, leaving Alex behind. So the males in your pack are in love with her? Eli asks. Well, he snarls it more. Tyler folds his arms and nods. They do. They watch her when she trains. And look at her every chance they get, but this shouldn't be shocking to her former alpha. I'm sure you've noticed she has perfect skills. A perfect body that males fantasize about. He grins smugly while Eli steps forward. I glare harder at Tyler. Don't goad him. I know what you're doing, but please. Stop. I beg through our link. He sighs and turns his back. A slight nod and I feel better. Turning back to Eli. I shake my head. Whether what he says is true or well over-exaggerated or not, it's really none of your business. It is my business because you are mine. I stiffen, not expecting that reaction. No, I'm not. I growl back. F-U-M-ing. You rejected me, and I accepted. End of story. I glare and turn on my heel and begin to walk away. I won't give up, Kelsey. I made a mistake, but never doubt that you are mine. Eli says confidently. I give no reply but continue walking. I feel Tyler beside me, but he knows better than to ask when I'm angry. The nerve of him, saying his. He rejected me. So why now a month later is he saying his like some possession? I shake my head trying to clear my thoughts. Kel, maybe we should give him a chance. Sierra says slowly. He rejected our Sierra. Why should I? I don't want to be hurt again. And I sure as hell don't want you hurt. He is an Eli may have, but Xavier hasn't. He wants us, and he hasn't talked to Eli much if at all since we were rejected. Sierra says. It's unusual for the human and the wolf to disagree when it comes to a mate, but seems in my case it's not. I will think about it, wanting to drop it. Okay, KL. My wolf whimpers. Chapter 23. Kelsey. Finally, a few hours of walking, we make it to the Moonlight Pack House. I immediately want to go to my room and rest, but unfortunately I know that won't be the case. But with Tyler right beside me, I do feel better, like I'm not alone to deal with these people. Eli begins to lead office. I see several of the pack members giving us confused looks. Males giving me lusty looks, while females did the same to Tyler. How does this feel to get watched by the packs? That's like your new meat. I asked Tyler, mentally giggling. Dirty. And I see him shiver beside me. Once we are behind Eli's office door, he closes in and sits down. Please sit. We obey and I take a seat beside Tyler. So you've both been brought up to date by Alpha Aiken on why you are here. For others you will simply say you're helping to train, which means you will both be attending training until I say otherwise or need your help. Is that understood? He asks calmly. I nod, not bothering to reply. Yes, Alpha. Tyler says. Then, I will have Alex show you both to your rooms. Eli says, and then the door opens, revealing Alex. We all stand and I try to follow Tyler out when a hand grabs my arm. I didn't need to look to see who it was. The tingled and sparks were a giveaway that it was Eli. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'd like to speak with you a moment alone, he says quietly, but Tyler heard and stopped. He glared at Eli, but I gave him a warning look and he quickly covered it. I know this pack. Though Tyler is not from this pack and he's in third command position, I didn't want to chance him getting hurt. I sigh, and nod to Tyler, who gives me a "I'll listen for your call" before following Alex. I yank my arm out of Eli's grip and turn, taking the seat I was in previously. Stop. I hear Eli sigh as he takes his seat. I make sure to keep my face emotional, sis. We simply stared at each other for a few minutes before he finally spoke. I know that it won't be enough, and I know that I made the worst mistake of my life. But I'm so sorry for rejecting you. I can't even give a worthy excuse for why I would do such a thing. I knew the moment you accepted that I had made a bad choice. I was going to begin to make it up to you the next day, but you had already left. I tried to find you, but I couldn't. He took a deep breath, and I continued to stare blankly while he obviously waited for a reply. I trailed off, leaving him to believe that was all I'd say, but then continued. You did make a mistake. And Hike, I appreciate that you can admit it. You're also right that a simple "I'm sorry" won't do a damn thing to help. I began to get worked up thinking about it. I went through hell in this pack. Years and years of mental, emotional and physical abuse. The one thing that kept me from ending my life was my wolf. Though I didn't hear her voice, that I knew she would want us to find our mate. And I waited so long. I felt the hurt and the frustrated tears slip down my cheeks. And finally the day came and I was rejected. Almost raped, and when my own mate, who is supposed to love me, cherish me and protect me, Assad breaks free, calls me a whore, and then goes to another female. I shake my head. Chapter 24. Eli. I watched her as she took a breath, wondering if she'd continue. You did make a mistake. And while I appreciate that you can admit it, you're also right that a simple "I'm sorry" won't do a damn thing to help. I watched her face become a bit red. I went through hell in this pack. Years and years of mental, emotional and physical abuse. The one thing that kept me from ending my life was my wolf. Though I couldn't hear her then, I knew she'd want us to find our mate. And I waited so long. I watched the tears slide down her beautiful face, and itched to wipe them away. But I stayed seated, knowing she wouldn't want me to. And finally the day came and I was rejected. Almost raped, in when my own mate, who is supposed to love me, cherish me and protect me, Asa breaks free, calls me a whore, and then goes to another female. She shake her head. Where would I even begin to make up for my mistake? How could I prove to her that I will be there when she needs me, and trusts me to do so? Let me take over, Xavier demands. But do as he said. He pushes forward as I am pushed back. Xavier. I stand and go to my hurting mate. I crush her to my chest and just hold her as she tries to struggle. Let go. She cries and it breaks my heart. Mate, calm down. Please. I beg. She pushes harder. I said, let go, Eli. Now. I am not Eli. I am his wolf's Avia. I say calmly. She suddenly stops struggling and I look down. Her big blue eyes that are now glassy due to her tears are staring up at me. I slowly and lovingly wipe her tears away. Xavier. Why did he reject me and Sierra? Was I not enough? I cup her face, making her look at me. Do not ever think that you or Sierra aren't good enough. You are both perfect, Eli. Eli just had a moment of stupidity. I cannot make you give him another chance. But I need you, and so does Eli. I love you so much, little one. I kiss her cheek slowly so she can pull away if wanted, but she doesn't. I become extremely happy but don't dare show it. I can't take away what happened, but Eli, I can take the pain away. Eli realized his error and searched for you. He wouldn't sleep, wouldn't eat. I only ask for a small amount of faith that he has changed. Let us make it up to you. I was close to going to my knees. Even though I'm alpha for my mate in love, I would do what I needed to win her back. She stared at me for a moment. Her tears dried up. I will think about it, Xavier. I can't help the sadness I feel, but I nod. I understand. She stood to leave, then paused. She turned and flung herself at me. Her lips hit mine in a passionate-filled kiss. I immediately responded, wrapping my arms around her waist. She pulled away slowly, and I noticed her eyes, which were a bright blue, now darker, which meant, I love you, Xavier. But Kelsey will need time. She was devastated when she got rejected. She was dreaming, hoping, and praying our mate would save her from the beatings and the insults. Sierra says, and Eli, I know you can hear me. I forgive you, but I will not stand for you hurting her again. If you do, I will hurt you. She threatens, then walks to the door. She turns as she opens it and winks before disappearing. Don't fuck this up, Eli. I warn and hand him control again. Chapter 25. Kelsey PT. One of deadly night. Oh my God. Please. Please, please, Ty, don't leave me. Keep your eyes open. I screamed at him, my hands and shirt covered in his blood. I could hear his heartbeat slowing, and his eyes began to flutter closed, but I shook him. The tears wouldn't stop. Don't just fucking stand there. Help him. I yelled at the 2 pack members that were on patrol with us, but they didn't move. They stood there just watching. I was about to yell again when something caught my attention, then I seen her. I was wondering what she was doing here when I felt something hit me hard on the back of the head, making me see spots. Then darkness took me. Our earlier Tyler. Kelsey, my office. Eli said in his alpha tone, though it had no effect on me. Tyler flinched. It honestly made me mad. There's no reason to use it on us. After we walked into the office, I shut the door behind me and looked at Eli. Tyler, you work border tonight with Alex. Kelsey, you will stay here and observe everyone that's off duty. They will be here in the pack house tonight. He explained, and I sighed. Yay, more time with our mate. Sierra says, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We will be working. I remind so. He will be watching us, and near us it's good enough for me. Though you should be nicer. She scolds and I mentally shake my head. Teddy, you okay? Tyler asks me, and I look at him with a small smile. I am. Be careful tonight, Ty. Worried for my friend. Over the days he has learned the territory grounds, but I still fear for him. He nods and stands. I wait to be dismissed, noticing the distant look that we know too well when mind linking. Alex will be here to show you a post. Oe says, just as Alex walks in. Tyler pats my arm in cordially before leaving. I sigh aloud. Great night without my Tyler. The Tyler who makes me feel comfortable in this horrible place. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Eli says so softly it feels like a caress against my skin, causing me to shiver in response. I turned to look at Eli and not realizing that while I was lost in thought he had moved closer, causing my face to hit his chest as I turned, instantly sending sparks through me at the contact. I backed up and looked up at him. His eyes gentle, but what was in them was pure longing. Lust and love. I had to look away. What? It barely coming out as a whisper. I hated how he affected me without trying. I hated how weak I was. I know you aren't comfortable here. I scoff at that, but he continues. I will do my best to keep you comfortable. To make you feel safe. I know I fucked up. But once this is over, I won't know I'm asking. When he stopped, I looked up at him. He looked nervous. I mean really nervous. He was chewing his bottom lip and he looked like he was trying to finish the words. Spit it out, Eli. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Those surprisingly came out gentle instead of rude. "Will you stay long enough to go on a date with me?" he asked quickly, but I understood. I stared at him at a loss for how I wanted to respond. Do I chance getting hurt? Or do I take a chance that I won't? Chapter 26 Kelsey PT. 2 of Deadly Night. I thought as quickly as I could. Consider if his offer. Of course Sierra was howling with joy, and so for her. "Let's wait until this is over and we will see," I said slowly. I seen the disappointment instantly before he covered it with a small smile. "I understand," he said sweetly. I nodded, turned and left. I began observing the off-duty pack patrol as they filed in for food and entertainment. No one seemed out of sorts, but that I noticed someone was missing. Brittany. Thinking back on it, she had avoided me the entire time I was here except for a glare or two. I wonder where she is. I pushed the thought to the back of my mind and continued watching, even talked to a few. One being Max, the only nicer wolf of this pack, but still nothing out of the ordinary. My mind buzzed slightly. I knew someone was trying to link me and knew it was probably Ty. Dropping my block, I'm greeted with ear-piercing scream. I jumped from my seat, knocking the chair over in the process. Everyone's attention turned to me. "Rouges. Eli Rouges," I yelled, running out the door to follow Tyler's scent. Even though I knew around the area he would be, I would shift if I had to. But what had me scared was the amount of blood I smelt in the air, and I recognized it as Tyler's. I could hear the warning howl from Eli, but I continued forward until I seen the body on the ground. I froze for but a moment before I ran forward. I looked for the deepest wound and covered it with my hands. I used my weight to press, feeling the blood soak my shirt. I felt the tears come as I watched Tyler's face pale from blood loss. Where was Eli? Tyler began spitting up blood and coughing. "Oh my God. Please. Please, please, Ty, don't leave me. Keep your eyes open." I screamed at him, my hands and shirt covered in his blood. I could hear his heartbeat slowing, and his eyes began to flutter closed, but I shook him. The tears wouldn't stop. "Don't just fucking stand there. Help him." I yelled at the 2 pack members that were on patrol with us, but they didn't move. They stood there just watching. I was about to yell again when something caught my attention. Then I seen her. I was wondering what she was doing here when I felt something hit me hard on the back of the head, making me see spots. My last thoughts before darkness took me was, where was Eli? And will my best friend die? Chapter 27 Kelsey yelled at Eli, letting him know of the Rouges attacking, and ran to find Tyler, only to find him fatally wounded. And then she blacked out due to a hit to the head. Eli. I heard Kelsey yell out, and the pack panicked, cutting my view of her off, which in turn had me panic. If Rouges were attacking, she had just left the safety of the pack house and was now in danger. I growled loudly, everyone instantly freezing and turning their attention to me. Women and children to the safe room. Warriors, get out there and defend our pack now. I command as I run outside. I howl out as I shift. Xavier feeling anxious for our mate. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I ask somewhat desperately. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It takes a few moments before I hear his groggy reply. Eli, where are you? Where is Tyler? Is Kelsey near you? My questions just flow out. The border. West side. I hear the internal groan from him. Eli, Tyler's wounded. Badly. I can smell Kelsey's scent, but it's faint. She was here, but she isn't now. He sounded confused. I quickly linked the pack doctor to prepare for our arrival as I ran quickly to the western border. Once I arrived, I shifted, quickly pulling on shorts. Watched as Alex wrapped Tyler's wounds the best he could. What happened? I asked as Alex lifted Tyler up. I noticed the blood soaking Alex's hair. He shakes his head. I'm not sure. Tyler and I knew some rouges were close to us, but we didn't expect so many. They attacked and I lost sight of Tyler when someone smacked me over the head. I growl in frustration and pray Tyler can give me answers I need. We finally make it to the pack doctor and she immediately begins to work on Tyler. You have to leave Alpha, she says sternly. We can't be distracted. When he's stable and awake you can speak to him. Instead of arguing I leave the room, quickly mind linking to call a meeting. As everyone sits down I begin. I don't know why the rouges attacked us, but I know that it won't be over just because they retreated. I believe they've taken my mate, and I want all trackers out there looking for her. The rouges captured will give us the information that we want, but until this is settled no one, and I mean no one, is allowed in or out of our pack grounds without my say-so. Understood? They all replied, yes, Alpha. And I nodded, dismissed. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilgan, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Dr. Emma asked. Yes. Tyler is awake, she says politely. I don't reply before I run into the pack doctor. Bursting through the door I get a glare from Drive. Emma. I ignore the glare and go straight for Tyler. Art turns his head towards me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilgan, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You have to save her. Please. He begs, his voice coming out scratchy. Do you know who took Kelsey? What happened? I ask calmly, even though both me and my wolf were desperate for answers. I don't remember much, but I heard Kelsey begging and screaming at me to keep my eyes open. He closed his eyes as if searching for a memory. It was me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And to younger wolves there, but as I laid there with Alex knocked out, the other just simply stood there even when Kelsey yelled at them. He cleared his throat, and I got up and offered him water. They helped the rouges, but their leader was, I don't remember her name. I thought myself wondering who the woman could be, and why they'd kidnapped Kelsey. The woman who was with you when you came to our pack. Kelsey whooped her ass, he said, and it all clicked into place. Brittany, I whispered. He nodded, confirming it. He began to shake. I believe they thought I died. But she wasn't alone. She had hunters with her, Eli. I turned to look at him sharply, my heart beat racing. Hunters? But why only take Kelsey? Why no others? I demanded. Tyler seemed to be considering his answer. I swore I'd never betray her secret, even to you. Her mate but helps you save her, I have to. Kelsey is a white wolf. I stared at him in shock. It all made sense now. The attacks, who they were looking for. All along they were after Kelsey, and I brought her straight into their trap. Oh my God. It's all my fault. I got up and ran out of the room. Xavier howled in sorrow. They will torture her. Xavier whimpers. I cringe thinking of it. We will save her. Chapter 28. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I woke hearing voices arguing around me, but at first I couldn't concentrate on what the voices said. My head was throbbing painfully, and when I tried to open my eyes the first time I immediately closed them and groaned in pain. Oh, it seems someone is finally awake. One voice said. I could definitely tell it was male. I tried opening my eyes once again and this time succeeded. But I could only squint. I quickly took in my surroundings. I seemed to be in a basement. How did I get here? Why am I here? After I asked myself the questions, the memories of what had happened came rushing back to me. Tyler bleeding. The rouges, and then seeing Brittany there, and then the pain in my head. My attention zoomed around until they rested on Brittany. My throat felt scratchy and sore. She smirked at me. Now you won't be in my way of becoming alpha female. I glared. How funny, didn't realize I was so threatening. I turned to look at the rouge male. He was somewhat attractive, yet he had an aura about him. And you? I don't know why you're in on this, but it won't end well for you. He chuckled darkly. Oh, you've got it backwards. The female we hired. She has become very useful to us in finding you. I was confused. Why were Rouges looking for me? What did this man want? The confusion obviously showed because he continued. I am the one who's been wanting you. Brittany was talking to one of her friends about you, so when I asked more questions she was happy to answer. Then she began to help me attack your pack. Oh wait, your old pack. Anyways, it was Brittany's suggestion to ask for help. She somehow knew where you went and therefore the call was made and Eli brought you back. The Rouge grinned. It worked wonderfully. I growled. So why me? Why do you want me? He seemed to think about that for a moment, and then whispered to Brittany, who then left soon after. You see, I heard a rumor around the Rouges that the Moonlight Pack had a white wolf. It was known that the said wolf was female, so I had Brittany watch all females, and I watched some as they came into the forest. But we both have never seen you shift. My body felt shock, and a sense of dread. They know. Oh God, now shift. But I refused. If you don't willingly, I will force you to. He smirked when I paled. Chapter 29. Kelsey. I didn't want to shift. So what do I do? Being forced to shift is a painful process, or so I've heard. I've never personally went through it, but I've heard that the way to do it is to break bones one by one. And they have a drug that can do it too. But I believe this Rouge would torture me before getting the drug. We have no choice, K.L. Sierra whimpered. We have to preserve our strength. I bit my lip, nervous but decided to go with what my wolf said. I shifted, but still couldn't make it far with the shackles on my ankle. I looked up to the Rouge, who was graying so big that it was scary. I stood tall instead of cowering as I wanted. I knew it. Finally the white wolf, he said with glee as he moved forward to touch me, I think, but my growl stopped him. He stared at me for a long while, then turned and grabbed a shirt and threw it at me. Shifted then, I will be back later, he said, then left me in the room alone. I shifted and quickly pulled the shirt on, thankful that I was at least alone in the room. Now what do I do? I looked around better and didn't see any windows at all. Just concrete. Cinder blocks. Hell, who knows? What do we do, Sir? I asked, desperate. I'm trying to contact Eli's wolf, Xavier, but I'm not sure if I'm getting through. I internally nodded. I will pray you'll get to him. But even if you do, we have no clue where we are. I cursed my negativity, but it was the truth. We had no clue where we were, but if we could get a hold of Xavier, we may be able to find out the information that we need. With that new hope in mind, I pray that it will actually work, because if it doesn't, I don't know how we will ever be free. I woke from sleeping to the sound of footsteps. It sounded like one pair, but I couldn't be sure. I looked around, remembering that the room had no windows, so I won't be able to tell how long I'd slept. When the door opened and the light hit me, I winced from being in the dark so long. When he turned the light on, I glared at the Rouge in front of me. He walked to me dragging a chair. Once directly in front of me he sat. This, my dear, will be your new home. Don't think of escaping because you will be punished. And you won't like it, he said with a smile. Chapter 30. Eli. A month later. I haven't stopped or even rested from searching for Kelsey. I've continued updating Alpha G, our Akan, and his beta Jason. They have helped and have sent numerous trackers out to help me widen my search. But, even with their help, no luck. Tyler has fully healed, thank God, and has been going just as long as I have searching for his best friend. I can't say that I'm not happy to have his help, because I know the more people helping, the better chance we have in finding her. Brittany has been a pain in my ass, always reminding me she could be dead because of how long it's been, and each time I have to stop Xavier from ripping her head off her shoulders. Since I know she was there, I've kept my beta Alex on her tail, hoping, praying that she will make a mistake and lead us to Kelsey. I look out my window, thinking of where they would take my beautiful mate. What could they be doing to her as I sit here trying to figure out where she is? I've never felt more helpless in my life. I failed to not only cherish my mate, but to protect her. I rub my temples, feeling a headache coming on, until I feel Xavier become restless. Our mate is trying to speak to us, Xavier exclaimed, howling with joy and relief. How can she speak to us? We have no bond strong enough for that yet. I don't hear her. On the verge of panic and fear, Xavier's POV. Are you okay? I asked, desperate to hear that they are fine. Yes, XAV. We are. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I wish I could tell you our exact location, but we're in a room with no windows, it's concrete. We can't smell anything, she says in sadness. I notice a bit of weakness or tiredness in her voice that worries me, but I know my mate is strong. You took you. What have they done to you? Even though I know Brittany has been a part of it, and I need to know what she's going through. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He hasn't ever told us a name, but we know Brittany was a part of this. We've seen her here, see her grow in anger, ignoring my question of her physical condition. I know, baby. We are trying. We heard she was a part of it and have been tailing her, but she hasn't slipped up yet. Be strong, my love, I say, hoping it gives her some strength. I will save you. I love you, she whispers tiredly. I hold back a whimper at her distress. I will find you. Never give up, I stress to her. But then soon after the link is broken, I decided to quickly inform Eli of what's happened. Eli. I wait. And wait. It seems like hours, even though it's been only minutes before Xavier finally answers me again. Zero was talking to me. Xavier begins. I suddenly feel nervous at the obvious worry in his voice. They are weak and tired. I don't know what they are going through. They are in a room. No windows. They have no name of the Rouge. He is smart. If he escapes us, we will have no way to track him other than scent, which easily can be erased. I hear a small whimper, and I feel the sadness well up inside me. I see red as I think about Brittany's betrayal. She will pay, and she will tell me where my mate is. Or she will be wishing for death. I have waited and waited, but now maybe I should make a direct approach. I quickly have an exchange with Alex to bear his opinion, and I'm happy he agrees. I tell him to take Brittany to a holding cell and await me. I'm taken from my thoughts by a knock. I quickly give permission to enter. I'd look up to see Tyler. Perfect, just the person I wanted to see. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Anything. His eyes hopeful. I shake my head. Not really. But close the door and lock it. He does as I ask, and looks at me curious. I know she's alive, I say confidently. He takes a sharp breath. How are you so sure? Her wolf contacted mine a few moments ago. But Tyler cuts me off, his face determined. Where is she? Is she okay? He asks quickly. I sigh, and ignore that he just interrupted me. She doesn't know. They are in a basement of some sort. No windows. And honestly, she didn't say, but Xavier said she sounded tired and weak. But she ignored his question about herself. I say a bit sadly, then growl out I was also told she had seen Brittany recently. So now I'm taking a direct approach. Tyler nods vigorously. May I come? I debate and nod. Yes. I get up and head to the holding cells. Chapter 31. Eli. Tyler and I walk to the holding cells. The closer I go, the more angry I got. Right before I walked in, I stopped, closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Calm down, Xavier. Instead of replying to me, he growled and closed the link off between us. I walked in and seen Alex glaring disgustedly at Brittany. I went to a chair and sat down while Tyler took a seat next to me. I observed Brittany. She looked calm and confident, and had a smirk on her face. I wanted nothing more than to rip it off her face. Why am I here? Her voice annoying me, because we know you know where my mate is. I want you to tell me or else I will make you wish for death. I stated calmly. I could see fear flash in her eyes. She shook her head. I don't know where that bitch is. She sneered. Tyler. Alex and I growled at her disrespect of Kelsey and her lie. I put my face in hers, my breath fanning her face. If you continue to lie, I will get started with your punishment. I smirked when she paled. I can't. She was shaking now. Tell me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I watched her flinch. S, she's in a H house. D, deep in the woods. I growled a no IE. Show us. I slammed a map on the table. She slowly looked it over, then pointed to an area. If you are lying to me, I will make your life a living hell, I promised as Alex. Tyler and I left the room. Find a guard and have her locked up until we return. Alex nodded and disappeared. I gathered the fighters and any others willing to fight with me, and also called Alpha Gia Aiken to let him know what was going on. He'll be there, Alpha Gia Aiken had said before he hung up on me. Once my wolves were ready, we shifted and ran towards our location, hoping and praying along the way that my mate was okay. Baby, I'm coming, just hang on. I sent through the link hoping she received it. Or at least Sarah. Chapter 32 Kelsey. A whole month of nothing but pure torture. And males threatening to do more than either hit or touch. It's sickening how weak I've become. I can't fight them. They keep me chained down or sedated. The Rouge leader has simply made me shift once in a while. He has been trying to get me so weak that I'll be forced to mate with him and join him. In the beginning I was supposed to be sold to hunters, but for some reason that I've yet to figure out, this Rouge now wanted me. I was groggy from their sedation. I guess they've gotten tired from me screaming in pain that they caused. I kept my eyes closed because my eyelids felt overly heavy. I could hear two hushed voices and knew one of them was the Rouge leader. Why are we even bothering to keep her? Can't we just sell her off to the hunters? A voice I didn't recognize said no. I believe we would benefit more if she was mated to one of us, me. And if we can get her weak enough and submissive enough, she will beg us to spare her, and when she does I will let her go if she joins our cause. The vile leader said, against the pack. Again the unrecognizable voice asked yes. She is Eli's mate. I want revenge on him for. And suddenly the voices began to walk away. I couldn't hear why he wanted revenge on Eli. End of flashback. I could feel Sarah stir at the memory of Eli. I wonder where he was. Was he looking for us? I shook my head. My whole being was giving up. Emotionally and physically I was drained. He is coming, Kate Eel. He said so along with Xavier. Sarah reminded. For the 1000th time. I'm getting weaker, not stronger, Sarah. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Hearts out thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I shook my head, and for the first time tears threatened to spill. I've been strung. I've waited for my so-called mate who is wanting another chance to come. But it's been, I assume, weeks. Has it been a month? 2, and he still isn't here. He hasn't found me. Is he still looking? Did he give up and move on? I bit my chapped lip to keep the sob in. I closed my eyes, ready for darkness to consume me, when I heard a faint voice. Baby, I'm coming, just hang on. I opened my eyes and looked around, but all that was seen was darkness. I laughed, sadly. Now I'm hearing things. No, that was Eli. He's coming, Kate Eel. He's coming. Sarah barked excitedly. Eli. I prayed I was strong enough to send it through. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Oh my God. Are you okay, babe? I'm coming. I know where you are. I'm on my way with our fighters from mine and Alpha Grokka NS pack. Eli said, in hurry. The tears and sobs that threatened to break free finally did. And I couldn't control them. He was coming. Please. Hurry. I can't take this anymore. My voice came out strained and weak. I know, baby. Don't give up. I'm going to get you out, and then I'll make sure you're always safe. His own voice came back strained with emotion. I suddenly heard footsteps. And I felt the fear and dread. I wish I had given you that chance sooner, Eli. Sorry. I'd never seen Eli again and see where we could be in 5 years or even 10. I'd never seen Gia Ache, Ken and Jamie again. My body seemed to shut down when I seen the Rouge walk in with a grin. I could barely hear Eli's cries. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't you dare give up. Do you hear me? When the door opened, I knew they'd come back to finish their training. I let the darkness consume my. Chapter 33 Eli. A whole month of searching for a location and finally I have it. A whole month of waiting to see and hear my mate, and at least I've finally heard her. But I can't explain the amount of sadness, nor fear I feel hearing her so defeated. I wish I had given you that chance sooner, Eli. Sorry, she said suddenly. I could hear the fear and sadness in her voice. The voice she used was broken and says, utterly defeated. Oh my God, she's giving up. No. I can finally save her, she can't give up. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't you dare give up. Do you hear me? I screamed through the link, but suddenly felt it cut off. The fear I felt earlier has maximized by 1,000-fold. I could hear Xavier and feel him giving me a boost of power to run faster. And I didn't fight it. I ran and dodged everything in my way. I will save my mate. Or die trying. Kelsey, I don't know how long I slept, but when I woke and opened my eyes, I wish I hadn't. The Rouge sat there watching me with his creepy grin. Finally, you're awake. Now we can begin. He stood and moved towards me. I now noticed I was no longer chained, and you'd think I'd first try to at least escape, but the fact they barely fed me, or gave me water, I can hardly move. He crouched down next to me, grabbing my chin in his hands so that I was forced to look up at him. I love the look in your eyes. He gushed like a child on Christmas. Dull. No spark. Submissive. I felt a spark go through me at the word, then heard Siri growl, I am not as submissive and I never will be. I want to help. I want to move, but my body aches and hurts everywhere. Stop being a baby. Come on, Kelsey. Get up. Punch him. Spit in his fucking face. Do something. Siri snarled at me. I couldn't even flinch from her voice or her scolding. I simply stared at the vile monster in front of me. Nothing to say, love. He taunted and chuckled when I was silent. I believe it's time we move this along. I was confused. Move what along? He stood up, looking down at me, and then he slowly began to unbuckle his belt. I wasn't sure where the fear I felt was directed. The possibility of him beating me with it, or the possibility that he may. My thought was completely shattered when I heard a ripping sound. Looking down, I seen my shirt shredded in the front and my heart rate increased. Please, do something, Kelsey.
Don't let him do it.
Please. Siri begged. And for once I was finally able to feel a small amount of power rush into me. I may be broken now, but I won't let this monster take my virginity. I stayed still, and he seemed to think it was even better. He openly stared at my balances. You're beautiful. It still surprises me on why your ex-mate would reject you. But then, he crouched down again and ran his sick finger down my cheek, to my neck. He hasn't seen you at your best. He dropped his belt beside him, which was in front of me. You will be screaming my name. He began but stopped. That's right, you don't know it. My name is Adrian. He grinned. Taking his shirt off, he flung it aside, then began the process of unbuttoning his pants. I stayed still, waiting for the right time. When I did, heard a sudden commotion of screaming and growls. I knew Eli had made it. I grabbed the belt and began to hit him with it. I listened to him hiss, grunt, and even once scream in pain as the metal pierced his skin, and felt great satisfaction over it. But it didn't last long. He snatched the belt and tugged hard, making me lose balance. I tried to at least regain it, but couldn't, and fell to the floor. Before I could even more, he was on top of me. You little bitch. I'll kill you now. Chapter 30. For real, I kill them all. Except the women and children. I ordered to my fighters and to Alpha Grok S. I didn't hesitate to kill those in front of me as I ran for the cabin. And if I didn't kill them, Alex or Ake and did it for me. Once I made it into the cabin, I could smell my mate's scent. Xavier clawed to get full control, to run to his mate and kill everyone, but I held him back. Xavier may be nice and reasonable most times, but his mate was in danger, and no one, and I mean no one, would survive. Not even the women, children. I killed those in the house quickly, a couple trying to overpower me, getting a scratch in here and there, but I shoved them off and snapped their necks. I began looking around, when Alpha G, Icon and Alex came in. They stood in human form, all dead, and women and children all surrounded. Alex reported. I nodded and shifted, pulling the shorts on that Alex threw to me. I followed my mate scent to the basement when I heard a slapping noise. Then a scream. I moved quicker, then slammed the door open. I couldn't stop Xavier this time from taking full control at the site before us. A Rouge was on top of our mate, his hands around her throat and her chest bare and open to his eyes. You little bitch. I'll kill you now. The Rouge snapped at her. Xavier. My body vibrated with the fury and rage I felt for seeing my mate in such a horrible situation. As soon as the words left the filthy Rouge's mouth, I tackled him to the floor. I could instantly hear my mate desperately coughing and gasping for air, which set my blood boiling. My claws scratched his skin. His blood splattered against me as I threw punches and clawed him. He screamed the first few times but began laughing. You've lost. Coughing up blood. Even if you kill me, it won't be over with. He coughed again. His voice lowered. I've already let the hunters know that I found a white wolf. They won't stop now. Your mate will never be safe. I could hear his heart slowing, and I growled loud enough to shake the room. I wanted him alive to suffer. Not simply die now when I've just begun. But before my thought finished, he went limp in my hands. His heart no longer beating, and I punched him again. And again. And again. Not feeling satisfied. But a hand on my shoulder made my hand freeze mid-air. The shocks running through me let me know it was my mate. I turned to look at her and noticed her once sparkling blue eyes were now dull and void of any happiness. They only held sadness and defeat. I wanted to cry. I could literally feel my eyes stinging from the coming tears. I stood and turned slowly, not wanting to frighten her further. I slowly pulled her into my arms, holding her to my chest. I nuzzled my face into the curve of her neck, calming myself and hoping to comfort her. I've got you, little mate, I said soothingly. Once I was happy that she was in my arms, I gave Eli back control. Chapter 35. Kelsey. After being picked up and held by Eli, the entire amount of strength I had unknowingly held onto evaporated. I was left feeling empty and totally tired. So I did what I at that moment felt like doing. I closed my eyes, ignoring Eli's calls and fear for me to stay awake. When I tried to open my eyes, they felt like someone had glued them closed. When I finally succeeded, I wish I hadn't. The light felt blinding and sent sharp pains to my head. I groaned in pain and clutched my head. To my agent extraordinaire, Mahlin Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I heard Eli's familiar voice, but it held tiredness, and sadness, maybe guilt. Night. I chucked out, my throat dry and scratchy. Immediately I heard him shuffling around the room. Okay, open your eyes. It sounded more like a beg than a confirmation. I opened them slowly and looked around the dimmed room. When I found Eli, I couldn't stop the gasp of surprise over his appearance. His eyes were baggy and had bruised-looking shadows under them. His hair had grown along with his facial hair and he looked utterly exhausted. He handed me a glass of water and I gulped it till I couldn't breathe. I ended up coughing from the moisture hitting my dry throat. Eli had moved to me and patted my back gently, talking soothingly to me. Eli, what happened to you? My voice still sounding a bit scratchy. Kelsey, I'm so sorry. He began, but before I could ask why, he continued. If I had paid more attention, or I'd gotten there sooner, I could have prevented everything. I shook my head. It wasn't your fault. None of it. I denied. He seemed to break down even more. Yes, it was. That Rouge was after me so personally. And when he seemed to know you are a white wolf, it only fueled him on. Had I not rejected you, you would have felt safe enough to tell me your secret. Had I not rejected you, we'd be fully mated and I would have found you sooner. He put his head down and I seen his shoulders begin to shake. I sighed and ran my fingers through his now longer hair. Eli, please don't blame yourself. It's also my fault. I should have been more cautious. He finally lifted his head after a moment, and I felt my heart weighing down at his red, glossy eyes. I'm okay now, I whispered, and he stood only enough to transfer to my bed. I watched as he slowly lifted his hand to my face, rubbing soothingly in a circle. You wasn't when I brought you back. You were underweight, almost starved. You needed IV for a while of liquids because of dehydration, blood transfusion also. Then all the cuts, bruises, and broken bones. I almost asked you, Kelsey. I sat confused as I listened and digested what he had said. Wait, but besides Nick, I feel fine. He took a deep breath. You've been in a coma 3 weeks, he explained. I sat dumbfounded. I was. He simply nods. Oh, I see. I bit my lip, then sighed. What? What happened to Tyler? I was afraid to ask, but I needed to know. He's alive. And doing very well again, he said, smiling, and I let a breath I didn't realize I held out. Can I see him? I asked him. For a moment, I believed he'd say no. Yes, but not yet. He moved closer to me. I could feel his breath fanning along my cheek. I can't lie, it excited me for the possibility while feeling him. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Asking permission. When I didn't respond, he took it as a yes and crashed his lips against mine. Sparks and electricity exploded in every single nerve I had. I have never felt something more perfect in my life. I wrapped my arms around his neck, wanting to feel him against me, and he obliged, wrapping his free arm around my waist and lifting me onto his lap. My body felt like fire, but a good kind. I was on my own cloud with only Eli with me. I wanted it to last, but damn if you didn't need oxygen. When we pulled away, we both gasped for air. When our breathing was somewhat under control, he rested his forehead against mine and whispered words that I'd always wanted to hear, but at the moment I wasn't sure if he'd said it. What did you say? I asked when looking into his eyes. He smiled softly. I love you, he said slowly so that I could comprehend. My whole body melted. He loves me. I've always wanted my mate to love me, and now I have that. I could feel and he see her jumping and howling with joy. I love you to Eli. I always have, I whispered back. And then his lips went to mine once again in a slow, loving kiss. Chapter 36. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. After the doctor came back to check me, giving me some pain meds, and basically a clean bill of health, did Eli allow me to get up and leave the room. The first thing on my mind after leaving the room was finding Tyler, which thankfully didn't take me long. He was sitting in the den, but what surprised me was seeing Alpha G, Akan, and Luna Jamie there along with Jason. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Luna. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What are you doing here? I asked as I moved closer, my voice almost sounding normal. All their eyes snapped my way, and I was thrown off guard when Jamie began crying. I looked at Alpha G, Aiken in question as he rubbed her back soothingly. We've been so worried, Kels. Alpha G, Aiken said gently. Tyler and Jason wasted no time in standing and hugging me between them. I enjoyed their comfort until I heard Eli's growl of warning. I looked at him to see him glaring at the two, and when I turned and looked at Jason, he was smirking. I shook my head. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm fine now. Just happy to be out. The Alpha and Luna stood, walked to me and hugged me tightly. They'd always been a family to me for that month I was with them, and I had secretly made a decision to stay and give Eli his date. I'm so happy to see you awake, Kelsey, Jamie whispered in my ear before pulling away, giving me a watery smile. She then winked secretively at me as she spoke, so you believe you up for the journey home? I didn't even have a chance to fully process what she'd said before I was pulled back into a hard chest. I knew instantly it was Eli. His chest trembled with his growl. She isn't leaving. She's staying with me. His voice daring them to try and take me. Alfred Aiken rose his eyebrows and smirked smugly. If I remember correctly, her reason for being here is now completed. She is also a member of my pack. He had Eli there. It was true that I had been filled in on the 2 young male wolves being caught and are now being held in the cells awaiting a decision. And I was in Grocker N's pack, so I couldn't stay without his permission. Girl, she is my mate in the Moonlight's Luna, Eli argued. I sighed as they both seemed to argue over this and felt Eli's body begin to shake, and that's when I knew this had gone on far enough. I said strongly and firmly, surprising myself for a moment. I would like to stay for a while, if that's okay. Alpha Grocker M seemed to think about this for a moment. I suppose that would be okay. I heard Eli huff irritably behind me, and I couldn't stop by Emil from coming to my face. You want to stay? Eli asked. I turned to look up into his eyes. I nodded yes. Is that okay? Butch bids his head eagerly. Jamie clapped her hands together. Great, it settled then. Chapter 37. A few months have passed since the kid DNA ping, and Eli has been the sweetest person ever. He has always made sure I was comfortable. I finally agreed to go on a date with him a week after I woke up, and it was perfect. He is also the most possessive man I know, but then alphas are always worse than other wolves. A unmated wolf can't even look at me for mock at me 5 seconds before Eli is ready to jump him and snap his neck for looking at me. But I love him, and since we've gotten so much closer and we've said our true feelings, I believe that I'm ready to give myself fully to him. I bit my lip in nervousness as I sit in the room waiting for Eli. He's been very patient with how far we go and waiting for me to be ready. He had done everything to gain my trust, and now he has it won. As I was in thought, I didn't notice Eli walk into the room until the sparks erupted on my face as he stroked my cheek. Are you okay, baby? He asked, his face full of concern. I nodded. I am. I wanted to talk to you about something. He sits down and watches me, waiting expectantly. I take a full breath. I'm ready to mate, I blurt out quickly. His eyes widen, but he chuckles. What was that, baby? You said it too quickly, he says, amused. I close my eyes. I'm ready to be fully mated to you. I say more clearly. I don't hear anything after a moment, so I open my eyes and see that his eyes had turned black with lust, but his jaw and hands were clenched. Are you sure, Kelsey? I can wait. I don't want to pressure you, has said husky, even though that alone sent shivers and wanting through me. I knew he wasn't sure. I'm ready, Eli, I say shyly. Chapter 38. Kelsey, Unforgettable Night PT. When I'm ready, Eli, I said shyly. If possible, his eyes turn even darker with lust, and I knew his wolf was joining us for this mating. I wasn't nervous or afraid because I knew they'd take care of me. Eli slowly grabbed me under the arms and placed me on his lap, my legs on each side of him. As I was straddling him, I could feel his manhood harden, and though normal virgins may be frightened, I became excited. I knew he was large, and a part of my mind wondered how he'd fit. He captured the back of my neck and pulled me forward, claiming my lips in a slow, passionate kiss. I responded immediately. Weaving my fingers through his hair, I tugged gently, which earned me a sexy as hell groan from him. He nipped at my lips, seeking entrance, and I granted it. Parting my lips, his tongue plunged into my mouth, and for a moment we both fought for dominance, but in the end he won. The slow and passionate kiss had now turned into a hunger and need that only we could feed. His hands began to roam over my body. His hands at first rubbed my arms, but then they moved down my stomach. I arched into his touch and earned an appreciative growl that sent shivers down my spine. Eli wasted no more time. He had stripped me quickly, leaving me in only my panties as he laid me on the bed and stood looking down at me with lustful eyes. You're so fucking beautiful, he groaned out, his eyes trailing over my body. I could literally feel his eyes heating me up. I felt this intense urge to cover myself, and I assume he's seen the anxiety in my eyes because he began to remove his own cloths. I couldn't help but mentally swoon when he revealed his 8-pack and the delicious V-curve. I'm sure my eyes gave away my desire because I'm instantly enveloped in his warmth. The touch of his bare skin against mine not only sent newly formed heat and need through me, but the sparks and electricity of the mate bond. I moaned at the contact, and he made a grunt groan sound, I'm not sure, I was so lost in what his hands were doing along with his mouth I wasn't even sure of my own name. His hands skimmed over my breast, fondling them before they were replaced with his mouth. His tongue flicked over my hard nipple and I moaned loudly at the pleasure. I tugged roughly as him, making him moan. My hips bucked upwards when he bit down on my sensitive nipple. He moved to my other nipple to give it just as much attention. His hand slowly moved along my panties, touching and testing my wetness. "You're so wet for me, baby," he slid slowly down my body, his tongue leaving a wet trail along the way. When he made it to my panty line, he stopped. I'm unsure why, but when he stopped it made that certain part of my body ache and I whimpered with the feeling. "Share, baby, I've got you." He cooed to me and stroked his thumbs over my hip bones before hooking them in my panties and pulling them ever so slowly down my legs and tossing them onto the floor along with our discarded cloths. He grabbed my thighs and spread them. I instantly tried to shut them, but his should-s prevented me from doing that. He kissed my thigh. Then he nipped and licked. I was breathless. What he was making me feel was intoxicating. Addicting. I never thought I could feel so much from so little. He pushed his fingers against my entrance as his mouth worked magic against my sensitive nub. I felt all Mr. Teach spread to my lower abdomen and I thrashed out on the bed, as much I could, but it wasn't much since Eli had his which arm laying over my hip holding me in place. I panted, begging Eli over and over for what I don't know. But it seems he knew because I suddenly felt his finger thrust into me, and that's when our building seems to break free, making me scream. After my body went limp, I felt Eli kiss his way back up my body. As he got closer, I wrapped my arms and neck. He kisses my hair and bubbled lightly. "Are you ready, baby?" H purred in my ear. I nodded, unable to speak at the moment. I felt him malign his manhood in my entrance. He whispered sweet nothings in my ear and apologized as he thrusted D forward, fully entering me. I gasped and yelped in pain, trying to move away as it felt like I was ripping in two. I didn't realize that I was crying until he began wicking my face. I opened my eyes and met his gaze. His face looked like it was in pain, but his eyes were soft and held concern in them. "The pain will pass, baby." I nodded and took a shaky breath. After a moment I tested the pain by moving my hips, which drew a moan from both Eli and myself. The pain was now forgotten. I felt nothing but pleasure. Please move." H said nothing as he drew out slowly, then thrusted forward. My nails dug into his shoulders as he began moving in a slow rhythm, still letting me adjust to his size. "You feel so good, baby." "Tu m'as agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilden. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." When I looked up at him, I noticed his eyes had dark, and which let me know that Xavier was joining us. So I allowed Sierra to join as well. "Triple A8. I moaned as his pack quickened. He leaned up on his knees, holding my hips as he began to move frantically. At his roughness, I felt the tension in my stomach comes back. I wrapped my legs around his waist, grabbing the sheets to hold myself in place. Soon my back was off the bed as I find my release. Eli reaches under me and pulls me up to where I'm now straddling his lap, still pumping I and out of me frantically. He tilts my K-neck and kisses and licks the curve of my neck when suddenly he bites down, mark in me as his. At first it hurt, but only for a second, then I felt so much pleasure I came again. This time Eli groaned his own release. We sat there for a moment, catching our breath. When he seemed to catch his first, he laid me down, and I guess he went to the bathroom because next thing I know he was cleaning me. I was so tired I couldn't even blush when the warm rag would get away both our excitement from between my legs. When he was done, he threw the rag and climbed into bed, pulling me to his chest. I couldn't have been more comfortable. I was on the verge of sleep when he whispered against my ear, "I love you, Kelsey, more than anything or anyone." There I let sleep take me. Chapter 39, Kelsey. I woke to warmth surrounding me. When I opened my eyes, I couldn't help a smile that graced my face when I seen Eli still sleeping soundly beside me. I reached over and ran my finger down his cheek, enjoying the feel of his little stubble of hair. I then ran my finger down his neck to his bare chest, just now noticing the blanket was down low on his waist. I ran my fingers down his arm, then sighed, sighing at how smooth he felt. When I finally looked back up, I gasped in surprise as I looked into his eyes. Blushing a bright red, I tried to duck my head, embarrassed for being caught, but Eli grabbed my chin, making me look at him. "This is all yours, baby. No reason to be embarrassed for touching or looking," he said so softly I melted. He grabbed my hand and placed it on his chest. Then I roamed over his abs, smiling. "I love you, Kelsey." My hand stopped and I pecked his lips. "I love you to Eli. So much." We stayed locked up in our room for hours and hours talking, cuddling and of course making love, but when we finally leave I can't stop the blush as everyone takes a sniff. Eli simply puts his hand around my waist, holding me to his chest. Of all days, it seems like the whole pack is around us. I start to feel anxiety from having them around me. And when suddenly they all bow their heads, I look around confused. Eli must have seen the confusion because he even whispered in my ear, "They are showing their respect for their Luna." I bite my lip to fake the blush I feel and nod. "Hey everyone," I say, stuttering. They all lift their heads and Eli waves them away. I sigh in relief as they all go about their business. I spent the next few hours learning the responsibilities of being Luna. After Eli took me out to dinner and we spent the night cuddled watching TV, I was finally happy with my life. I had the mate I'd always wanted and needed. My pack was finally turning a new leaf and began to respect one another. I don't think our pack will ever have to worry about discrimination towards gays again. Why? Because this pack is led by an alpha and an omega. The end. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.